One. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast, a podcast of people who keep rolling forward no matter what life throws at them. Real people, real stories, powered by purpose, resilience, and a drive that never ends. I'm Zach Sikora. Spina bifida didn't stop me. It just gave me a better excuse to sit down while I take over the world. Today's shirt is Wheelchair Mafia, and it's a little bit different from what has been seen before. I've got this little mafia character in a wheelchair down here. Just a real quick, I haven't ever told this story, Shawn. So our trainer, my best friend is in a wheelchair, and our trainer, he calls us the Wheelchair Mafia. So if you want to be a part of the Wheelchair Mafia, hop on to rollingforward.printful.me and pick up your funny shirt. There's a lot of different variations. I'm adding more to the shop as we go. And if you have a funny shirt idea, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it, and it might make it into the shop. Now, let's roll into today's podcast. So I have Shawn here with me. Shawn Matthew is what you go by socially, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Matthew, no S. I mean, there is. It's the beginning, but not the end.
Yeah, sure. And I am super excited to have you on because we used to work together, and I've always thought highly of you. You've been doing DJ stuff for a while, and now you've gotten into EDM, and you've started this business with your wife, and I'm just super excited to get into it. And you've just been a really cool guy, and it's been a long time since I've seen you too. So. Real quick for everybody listening, give us like a 10,000-foot view of who you are and what you're about right now.
Oh, man, the big question, the heavy hitters first. Okay, so have you ever seen the movie Benjamin Button with that little kid that starts out really old and
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
younger? Like, I think that's what I'm all about.
That kind of fits you, yeah.
That's it. That's the 10,000-foot version of it.
I
No,
love it.
I started out like an old man when I was a young adult.
Yeah.
And doing like really like adult, stodgy stuff. And then I realized that I had always wanted to be a musician, and life was passing me by. And thankfully, through you know a few chance opportunities, a bit of luck, a bit of hard work, it has given me a lane to be able to really pursue it. So that's what I'm doing. And in reality, I'm not getting any younger, so I'm running at it. I'm, rolling forward.
Yeah.
Hey, full steam ahead. Try- So,
Love it.
yeah, I got to put a plug in like early in the show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, lifelong musician. What am I all about? So, lifelong musician, EDM for the last like 20 years. Former like punk rocker. That's an
Okay.
interesting thing. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of years DJing, producing, mostly just, casually for myself, trying to get some giggles out of it, really not knowing what direction to go with it or how to get it in that direction.
Yeah.
And then as of late in the last couple of years, really started taking it seriously and wanted to make it into a career for myself. And that's what it has absolutely turned into.
That is awesome. Yeah, so you sent me some of your music, and it's pretty awesome. So I definitely highly recommend everybody checks that out. Do you want to shout it out real quick where people can get it?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, I just dropped a single in early April. Work to the beat, and it's on all the streaming places. So your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Amazon, your Pandora, your iHeartRadio, all those places. It's in all those places for your DJs. It's in Beatport. It's also on YouTube, by the way.
Okay.
So it's all the places. It's bass house. It's got a lot of bro step, trap, EDM kind of feel to it. So it hits a little bit heavy.
Okay.
And I mean, I think it'll speak for itself when you get a chance to hear it. But
Yeah.
it's got some like Southern hip hop vocals to it, and all the wubs and the stabs you want from some hardcore bass house EDM stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
like I'm like legit. So 41 years old, and I'm at a season right now where it's like, if I've got some things to say, like I gotta say it now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the aggression, the energy's coming out of my music at
Mhm.
this season, because if it doesn't now, it's never going to.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to see how successful you are. You're actually the first person that I was able to find on the internet, let's say, that I've that I've interviewed. And there's one thing that caught my eye on one of the news articles.
Oh,
So,
oh,
uh,
oh.
by the way, like just from like an article standpoint, like there's I don't know dozens, a couple of dozen, 2 dozen, something like that at least that are have written about Sean. So definitely, definitely check him out. He's got some cool stuff. Next time I work out with gym people who have been on the podcast, I will definitely have us working out to that. So
Nice, yeah. I
um,
tested it at my gym a couple weeks ago, actually before it released, just to kind of see like what the reaction would be in a
mm,
gym, and it worked.
okay,
It
okay,
worked. I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of creatine in the room,
Yeah,
a lot of B vitamins. People were sweating, and they were getting pumped anyway. But it
yeah,
didn't kill the vibe. So
yeah. So, okay, so one of the things that it talked about, one of the articles talked about was that you had a near death experience, and talking to you before the show, sounds like you've had a couple near death
yeah,
experiences,
that's
which
true.
is like as if one isn't enough.
That's true.
So what can you like and that was almost one of the motivations from what I heard from you quitting your day job and doing all the stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah. So, in the context of near death experiences, yeah, I've had like probably a lot more than the average person, and some of them are quite funny, and we'll get a chance to talk about, I'm sure, a couple of them. But
Okay.
the one that was my catalyst that made me really decide that I wanted to chase after this was about, I guess it was about 2 years ago, and I was in a season of life where there's just like a lot of just like a lot of like life stress that was happening. So my family was moving, we were selling a house. My kids were doing kid things, and they were like at a season of just like high stress. It's a lot of things just felt like they were converging at once. Like just imagine being in like an F5 tornado and it's inescapable for a very long period of
Yeah.
time. So that's what I was in my life, what I was going through, and it started to manifest in like some kind of a weird way, and I didn't really entirely understand it. And at first, it felt like the flu, and it didn't really go away, and it
Mm.
and it kind of got a little bit worse, and I started getting started getting dizzy, and started getting really tired and really wobbly, and before I knew it, I started like losing my balance and falling over, and then I wasn't getting back up, and then I start
Whoa.
start going a little paralyzed for like periods of time,
No. Like
and
how paralyzed?
like catatonic paralyzed. So
Uh,
I don't know, maybe that's not the right technical term, but unable
like
to speak or move.
no way.
Yeah. So I went through months and months and months and months of testing with all kinds of doctors, all the expensive ones that you could throw money at.
Mhm.
And I got poked and scanned and put in every machine. And if you haven't had an MRI before, they're really loud and
Yeah,
noisy.
they are.
So
You're
yeah,
used to that though. Like
I
you're
thought
a DJ.
I
Come on.
thought I had a. They asked me when I had my first one, like, "Have you ever had an MRI before?" And I'm like, it was like around 40. I'm sure I've had a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
not had an MRI. I
Oh.
felt like I was getting shot out of a cannon, and it
Yeah,
sounded
yeah,
like
yeah.
it too. But ultimately, like, there was never any like clear diagnosis on what it was, but at a certain point, I was like going into cardiac arrest.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it got really dicey, and whatever it is, I mean, I eventually just gave up on testing because it was like morally deflating. It was on top of just being expensive.
Yeah.
It was taxing on the whole family, but whatever it is, looked and felt a lot like, and not that it necessarily is, but looked and felt a lot like multiple sclerosis. And I had, scarring on the brain, and my
Whoa.
doctor's saying, hey, it could be, but there's not enough there to really confirm that's what it is. And they ask, hey, did you ever used to play football? I'm like, yeah, for like 15 minutes when I was a freshman. It's like broke my tailbone. Like, it's probably from football. I'm like, it's not from football. I
No.
sucked. I was
Yeah,
third
right.
string on the freshman team.
Right.
But anyway, so and even still to this day, it's very cyclical, and it happens sometimes worse than others, but like about once a month, I get a couple days, and then some months it's just like it's a little bit tired and just not really feeling myself. And some days, like I get they call them like the spaghetti leg days, and
Whoa.
it's like tough to get around. And so um, that was really my driving factor in realizing that whatever had happened hasn't completely stopped happening.
Yeah.
And like there's a huge part of me that ever since I was a kid had wanted to be a musician. Like I picked up the guitar when I was in the 5th grade, and it's all I ever wanted to do is be a musician. And I got busy with life and got busy with responsibilities and college, making money, family, all kinds of great things in my life. But I realized a couple of years ago when I started going through this, like, oh man, if I don't do this now or at least soon,
Mm,
I may not be able to ever do this.
wow.
And for something, and I'm sure this people could probably relate to this, like if you've got that one thing in your life, like, hey, this is what I was made for,
Yeah.
to realize you may not be able to do it, it's like, man,
Right.
that's a tough spot to be in. So
Right.
that's what charged me to like, how can I find a lane to get in and like really, if it doesn't happen, then it's gonna be not gonna be because I didn't try,
Right. Yeah.
not because I didn't put in the work. So
Wow.
that's how I got into all this.
So you've only had one heart attack as a result of all this, or
And so to be fair, I was going into cardiac arrest. It didn't go into full blown heart attack. So
sure.
thank God. But yeah, one to that extent. Multiple paralysis episodes. I don't get all the gory health details, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So like every couple months, just can't feel my arms and legs, and that kind of sucks.
Wow. Now, when you can't feel your arms and legs, does it happen when you're like walking or driving
It's
or
weird because it's like somebody's flipping so it happens in periods of about 5 days.
okay.
So 3 to 5, well, between, like, 3 and 7 days will be like a spell of some sort. It's
Yeah.
usually when there's, like, some really dumb stuff going on and, like, life kinda sucks, like, I don't imagine whatever the thing is I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
High stress period, it's like a catalyst for it.
Sure.
And if anybody knows what is going wrong with me, please, I would love to hear it in the comments. You just go ahead and let me know. Send me an invoice, maybe. I don't know if you
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you take, insurance, but,
Yeah.
uh, so where was I going with this? Excuse me. Um,
We were talking about cardiac arrest.
oh yeah, yeah. So like I had like one really nasty episode where I was going that direction, and the emergency room really quick. Most months though, um, most months it's more of a nuisance, and it's something that I've learned to control. And,
Okay.
and that's probably been the biggest part of it. Is although I don't know what has caused it, I've learned to recognize that, like, hey, something's happening in my body.
Yeah.
And so I shift gears and I slow down as best I can. I try to get a good night's sleep.
Mm,
I try to like manage the stressors, do some meditation,
yeah.
like whatever I can do. But I'd say at least one out of every 3 months, it's like I'll lose like 50% of the feeling like everywhere.
Wow.
It sucks.
Then
So
can you still move or is it just feeling? Like to your
a
muscles?
bit of both, bit of both.
Okay. Wow.
Like the bad months I've seen couple times a year. I get like the bad ones where it's like I'm not getting up. I mean,
Okay.
not. I've only had, I think, two of the big full blown like spells where there was paralysis involved,
Mm,
and the other ones that got nasty. It's the falling over, it's the vertigo, it's the dizziness, it's the.
wow. Have you been anywhere where that's happened that it's been like bad? Like have you knocked your like fallen and I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, yeah. So when the first and all this was going down, I was moving. So
Yeah.
and it was the situation we had. So we had a house and we were moving to a different house, and we packed up and we were moving from a house into a house that's a little bit smaller because a couple of
Mhm.
our we got some kids, and a couple of them were getting older, and we're like, hey, we got a lot more house than we need. We're gonna get a house that fits better. So it allows
Yeah.
us to take care of. So imagine taking a lot of stuff and trying to put it in a smaller place,
Right.
and like I don't know, I've got clinical ADHD, so like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff didn't make it in the box, didn't make it on the
Uh-huh.
truck. So the truck gets packed up, and like half of the stuff is still in the house. And my wife she had a commitment to go to a wedding
Yeah.
in another country, and so like we had to get our house emptied to get everything moved out
Right.
like by a certain deadline, and
Right.
like I was the last one there.
Oh,
So like and you're talking about like an episode when things got crazy.
yeah.
And and that was actually the first big one. And I'm like going up and down ladders, carrying boxes, and I'm like falling all over the place. I'm hurting
Oh,
myself. Yeah, so that's like it was pretty bad. I remember once I had one, and a lot of people that were there probably don't realize it, but I was going through an episode, one of my bad ones, at a particular show that I was, like I had a big show that was scheduled as a St. Patrick's Day show, and it's a big crowd, and like I want to say it was like the day before I started going into like a nasty episode, and I was like just falling all over myself. The table was what held me up that day.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Thankfully, those before I learned to start like recognizing like what was happening, and I feel like managing it has made me have be able to have some control over it.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting point too is I got a dog. I actually have two dogs now, Buckley and Benny, and they're both awesome. They're labs.
Yeah.
But Buckley was with me when all this started to go down, and I noticed that in that very first experience, and ever since then, I noticed that Buckley notices when things are getting weird. And
Oh.
so yeah, I've learned to use that as a tool. So he'll usually start to pick up on like changes in, I don't know, my body
Yeah.
chemistry or whatever's happening like 30 minutes before things start to go down.
Wow. Okay.
And so he starts getting weird and whiny and whimpery and just like clings like he never does otherwise.
Wow.
And so I've learned to pick it up. So if I've noticed that I'm going into like a spell, which is like the episodes kind of like coming up,
Uh-huh.
and then like during that period he starts acting weird, I'm like, well, okay, and he's right like 100% of the time.
Wow. I've seen dogs like that for like seizures and stuff like that. So I don't know. I wonder if that's related.
I
Hey,
don't know.
so let me ask you this. So I've gotten really big into something called functional medicine recently. And basically what that is like today's world is all about like, oh, you have a problem? Well, let's put a band-aid on it with pharmaceutical drugs and stuff like that. So functional medicine is hey, let's get to the root of the problem so that you stop having it. And so like one of the things that that functional medicine looks at is like just different vitamins and nutrition deficiencies that you've had. Another big one is like parasites and like I've heard people talk about like Lyme disease and stuff like that and how like with functional medicine and eating properly and stuff like that you can actually solve for a lot of things. I'm just curious, have you ever looked into functional medicine at all?
Not even a little
Yeah, no, that's okay.
bit. I
um,
mean, like, no, like I'd like to say that I have, but the truth of the matter, like I did like the very superficial stuff that I think most people do when health is getting weird, like
yeah.
is to make sure I'm getting a lot of water and start eating
Mhm.
better
Yeah.
and taking a close look at any of the medicines that I was taking and kind of anything that didn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no,
Well,
I should. It sounds like I should.
I'm not a doctor, and I think I
He's
gotta throw that out for YouTube or something
he's
like
not this
that, so
guy, not a doctor,
not a doctor,
not a
just a tennis coach and other things, so and a podcaster, I guess, so, but yeah, like, I don't know, it's something that might be worth exploring, see a functional medicine doctor or
I
stuff.
will put that in my notes. That
It
is good.
yeah, but anyway, I wanted to throw that out because it's definitely something that I've been there's a couple like doctors on YouTube that I've followed and like Mark Hyman is one of them and anyway, but yeah, if you so choose, you can check that out. But
I shall.
everybody, someone in the comments, the millions of people that are going to be watching this, they're gonna diagnose you and
I'm
figure you
sure
out.
they're going to be like, "This guy's having a panic attack," and I've
Yeah.
heard that. Like, and I did hear that. It wasn't always like when things were really stressful. That like there'd be like a big stress event that would like initially trigger it,
Mm,
and then like otherwise the period of it like things were like pretty normal. Like, oh, I'm packing up a box and I'm
yeah.
putting the dishes in the box and wrapping them up in newspaper, and then like fall over for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh.
And then there's like, weird stuff. But anyway, hopefully the comments are going to diagnose me correctly. By the way, this is probably we started with the darkest
Yes, we
possible
did.
topic of the episode. We're like, here's EDM and it's in the blues.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, right? Well,
it
I
gets
mean,
much more lighthearted from here. Like I'm making EDM and bass music and
what are you talking about gets lighthearted? You said you had multiple multiple near-death experiences.
yeah,
No,
but
I'm
the other
kidding.
ones are like way better because they were like very acute,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in and out.
Okay, so we will get into those. I might sprinkle them throughout
Sprinkle.
the episodes. So the other thing that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into is, so as you said, you went from work to producer and DJ. Like, what would you call your music title?
God,
Your
that
title in the
has
music world?
evolved so much over time.
Okay.
EDM artist is where
Okay.
I'm at now.
Got it.
And I learned, man, by the way, arts are like a whole journey. And like, I don't know that there's like a straight line to get anywhere or if there's even a destination. So that's a qualifier.
Okay.
Um, I, as you mentioned, as a teenagers playing, punk rock band with some really great dudes. And that's really what got me like into
Yeah.
this whole thing. And so very early on, I was performing and we were writing music and I got the bug.
Okay.
Went off to college and, like things are getting complicated. And I figured out about this whole EDM thing
Mhm.
in college because that's what people do is they find out about electronic music,
Yeah.
among other things. And then so I didn't initially start into DJing right away, but this was like 20 years ago, 22 years ago, forever ago.
Yeah.
So the technology was very different then. So I was using some very different technology, and I was like one of the first kids on the block that was using some of this new stuff to like try and bang out some EDM beats. And granted, EDM was
Yeah.
around long before I got involved, but like it
Sure.
was mostly like professionals and they had like nice hardware and stuff.
Mm.
And so anyway, I was like making some stuff on my. So I was producing very early,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until I think I was 21. I think is when I DJ'd my first show, and it was. And I found out about it some message board. And by the way, I'm giving you like the full history, which is
Let's
probably
do it. Yeah.
let's
Let's
do
go.
it.
We got time.
Yeah. So it was this like message board. This is like in the message board era, and I think it was called Louis Pimps.
Okay.
And it was there were no pimps involved,
Okay. Good.
but it was a
Good.
bunch of like DJs in Louisville, Kentucky, and there's nice guys. And I'm not from Louisville, Kentucky, by the way. I at the time lived a couple hours away.
Mhm.
No like genuine connection there, other than I'm on a message board, and I had never DJ'd a show before in
Uh-huh.
front of anybody other than like nobody,
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I had these like crappy belt drive turntables.
Uh-huh.
And I did not know at the time that they were crappy, but they were what I had.
Yeah.
And so I had my little record collection. I learned how to spin a few things. It sounded pretty good to me. And actually, to be fair, like I did I learned how to spin on them from somebody who was quite skilled.
Yeah.
But every time that I did, brought my crappy turntables. So I really had a very sheltered experience in only using my crappy stuff. I was very comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, back to the Louis Pimps. So I get on this message board, and they're like, they're trying to help some local cats get out and get a show, and then eventually they're like, hey, we'll throw this guy a bone. We'll give him a chance to go and play in this particular venue. And so I was really excited. So my first thing is like 21 years old. So I go out
Yeah.
to Louisville, and then I bring my turntables and my box of records. And I did not understand that you do not bring. This is vinyl, by the way.
Yeah.
You do not bring your turntables into the club. So I bring my stuff and take it right back out the door. 'Cause I got the system there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they had like real big boy turntables there, and they
Uh-huh.
were direct drive, and I was used to belt drive, and it doesn't make any difference to you, Zach, but for somebody who's used something entirely different, and not only and I go up on stage, and I'm like, my hands are shaking because I got the
Yeah.
and then I totally train wrecked it. It was like the worst set I could have ever possibly done.
Oh.
I wish I could just have fallen over dead in that moment.
Wait, hold on. So when you say worse to you or worse to the audience?
Oh, I think we all agreed it was pretty
Everybody
terrible.
was like, "Uh-oh."
They were nice. Thankfully, the crowd was pretty scarce. It was a Friday night, and I was in and out pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. How long did your set? Is that what it's called?
It's a
Set go?
long. It was an hour. Yeah, it says it was an hour. It was the longest hour of my life. It was
Okay.
the longest hour of my life. Because like I'm train wrecking because I can't like I feel like I can normally beat match really well, but I'm not apparently that night because I don't know how to use this stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
they got that CD like it's early CDJ or CDJs there too, and I don't know what these things are. I've never seen them in my life.
So I just heard you say it's not like a bicycle where you could just pick up any bike and ride it. You definitely it's like a bicycle versus a helicopter. It sounds like.
Well, let's say that there is like with most enthusiast type things, there's like a barrier that separates like the casual, like,
Yeah.
learning gear from the professional gear.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I was using professional gear, which I had never been exposed to and frankly didn't even know existed. I
Yeah.
did, but I didn't know there was a big difference and
Right.
didn't realize what I knew did not translate to it.
Right.
So anyway, that was my first DJ experience, and it was horrible. And then
But okay, so here's a really interesting thing that I think I'm all about, and I'm like on my podcast. I really want to instill in others. Just a quick, maybe not quick, but a side tangent for a quick second. I'm the more I've like got the older I've gotten, the more I've embraced failure.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like I think in my younger years I was scared to fail. Like I had to do it, and when I did it, I had to do it right. And now it's like, hey, listen, like I think there's a quote, and I'm sure it's been given out to different people, but I think I heard it as Michael Jordan said, "I've failed more times than I've succeeded." And so, like, yeah, that was maybe a humiliating moment that's obviously memorable to you, but like, you obviously carried on, and I don't know.
I
Can you
did.
talk about the failure and
I
like?
did. I did. I carried on. I mean, like, definitely I went back. I took the long 2-hour drive home with my turntables still in
You're
the
like, "Son
car.
of a-"
Yeah, but licked my wounds and, like, a lot of time and experience passed since then, and
Mm,
20 years later, I didn't give up on it.
yeah.
So I took that and I learned from it. I did not go back and play in Louisville for a very long time. That was
They didn't
my
invite you back,
I
huh?
didn't ask.
Oh.
That was my last experience on that particular message
Yeah,
board.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a mic drop, but after a
Uh,
bad joke,
yeah,
so
right,
it's like that.
right.
But, yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that particular experience, and
Yeah,
thank God, shortly thereafter, this whole concept of like digital, like DJ controllers came out. So although I did end up skilling up on DJ on proper turntables with vinyl,
yeah.
there was like this whole new wave of technology that was coming out.
Mm,
And then so I kind of rode the wave on that. And so I started using a controller, some of the early ones, I think the Newmark NS5, and that wouldn't mean anything to most people. I really guess it wasn't that long ago, but it was kind of a long time ago.
yeah, yeah.
Probably in a museum somewhere.
Right.
Uh, but anyways, got into the electronic stuff on these digital controllers, and spent a lot of time like improving my skill. Watched Kim Murphy's YouTube videos at the time, but like I learned from everybody that I could learn
Yeah,
from within
yeah.
my close circle. Didn't do a whole lot of gigging out, but I was mostly just kind of closet DJing, occasionally doing a little bit here and a little bit there. I got I got some more equipment to start producing more stuff at home,
Mm,
and I just really kept growing and building, but not really showing it out to the world a whole lot
yeah,
until within the last, I think it was like 7 or 8 years, and
yeah.
it all started with a wedding.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't do weddings anymore, but I did then. I did. So I was like,
it
I was like,
was it because of a certain someone that we used to work with?
no, it wasn't from anybody that we used to work with.
Okay.
It was like a random chance experience with somebody that popped over to the house, and it was like a friend of a family friend, I think it was,
Mm,
who saw that I was DJing, and they also happened. I remember what it was. I think it was maybe it was somebody that was like on Facebook Marketplace was randomly buying patio furniture.
oh,
I don't remember exactly what it
okay.
was, but they saw that I was like DJing and stuff, and like, oh hey, by the way, we're getting married. Would you ever do a wedding? I'm like, well, sure, I would love to go out.
Yeah.
So anyway, it turned into a whole like season of life where I did like some
Okay.
weddings, but I was like, I wasn't like trying to be the wedding guy. I was like just doing like this crazy EDM, like marshmallow kind of stuff. It
Yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah,
I guess that's what they wanted, but
yeah.
yeah. So that became a season where I started like actually going out and performing, and then from there, it did some, I did some weddings. I'm not really the wedding guy. That's so
Right.
it's a great skill, great. It's an enormous amount of work, and those people are very talented
Mm,
performers. That's not never what I signed up for. I was just trying to make some beats
right.
and play them out in front of people.
Yeah.
So anyway, that quickly evolved into some bars and some clubs, and they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And yeah, so that kind of took me to where I was regularly performing out. Although along with that, I found that I was doing a lot of what they call open format DJing, which
Uh-huh.
is it's really cool. But I mean, you can imagine somebody who's really trying to make dance music, and in certain events and certain venues, I may need to play like regular bar music, Kanye, T
Mm,
Pain, the bar stuff,
yeah.
and it's cool and it's a great skill being able to just like scratch records and do all that stuff. But there was really never what I was into it for, and
Yeah.
it's the open format DJing. So I realized like if I really wanted to take this thing further, like I needed to propel like my own music forward,
Mm,
and I needed to separate like the difference between just being just like an entertainer versus being an artist.
yeah.
And they were really two different lanes. So
Mm,
I decided that what was really important to me was I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to create music and put it out in the world. I wanted to like have a specific show that people could come see and enjoy
yeah.
and be able to curate it.
Yeah.
So that's the direction at least I started making music. Well, I was already making music, but I started releasing my own music and some of my early stuff, and it's still out there. And I won't say it's the stuff that I'm the most proud of. It was more like melodic EDM, melodic house music, and it was a season of life,
Okay. Okay.
my ugly preteen years, and it's still out there. Um,
Okay.
but I started releasing music, and then eventually I realized that if I really wanted, it was about the time that if I'm just kind of skipping through some chapters here, but I
Sure.
get to the season of life where this whole like near death experience happened that we talked about, and it's
Yeah.
like I want to like really go hard at this, and like if I am gonna seriously run at being an artist,
Yeah.
I need to treat it like the complex subjective thing that it is, and like seek help.
Yeah.
So I started a mentorship with a team of producers out of the UK,
Cool.
and it was like a really intense 6-month program.
I assume you went to the UK,
I
right?
actually didn't have to, thankfully. It
Oh,
was like super well structured, but it was like a, an absolute everyday thing. In
cool.
studio 8 to 12 hours a day,
Wow.
like Zoom calls, WhatsApp chats every single day,
Yeah.
constant collaboration. It was a lot of skill building, a lot of like, show and tell, like, hey, this is what I've got.
Yeah.
How do I fix this thing? Working with sound designers. And it just took me light years ahead. And then that,
Mm,
that kind of took me to where I am now. So I've shuttered off, by the way, during this 6-month period, I said, hey, I just quit DJing altogether. I said, I'm not going to do
mm.
any shows because I don't want to create something and then take a different type of a show to an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to like pour myself into creating EDM and then go play T Pain.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
nothing against T Pain. He's a great artist. He
Oh,
got
yeah.
a hell of a catalog. He gets
Yeah.
way more streams than I do. But it's a different path.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'm gonna let my DJ side cool off for a little bit while I rebrand, while I restructure what I'm making, and then that's kind of where I ended up now. So
Neat.
yeah, and so really, Work to the Beat represented the first of those new releases to come out. The one that just came out in April.
Mm.
Um, so it was definitely a transformation.
Yeah, yeah. The couple of the articles said that like it talked about the kind of music that you came from and that you're doing now. And I'm not big into the music world or anything like that. So they were naming like a lot of like subgenres that I'm like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
those. But hey, so quick question. You said you were in a band. What role were you in the band? And
my job was to be the guy that wore the glittery shirts.
no. Yeah, but what
I was
did you
glittery shirt
play?
guy.
Did you play an instrument? Did
Yes,
you
I did.
sing?
I played the glittery shirt. No, I was
You played the
the
glittery shirt.
I was the lead
It was
guitarist.
chimes on your shirt.
We used to say there was a period of time where Spencer's you could just buy any kind of glittery shirt you wanted, and you could do it with frosted tips. And I went all in.
That's great. Okay, so wait, you said you played what?
I was the lead guitarist in the band. So I started playing guitar as a kid, and I carried that through. And actually, all through high school,
Okay.
I was playing with different groups of people, and there's one in particular that we really locked in. I think it was like freshman sophomore year, something like that. And then by the time we were like really starting to play out, we were gigging out like 2-3 shows a week. It
Wow.
was it's like all through school,
Okay.
and that's a lot for a teenager.
Yeah.
And so I was the lead guitarist of the
Okay.
band, and I was probably the most opinionated of us, all skilled teenagers that were equally distracted with being teenagers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it definitely planted the seed. You can imagine, several times a week, jumping up on the loudspeaker and swinging the guitar around your back, like a real like
Yeah.
genuine rock show. Like a
Yeah.
lot of, like a lot of, at the time it was like new metal kind of stuff, or
Uh-huh.
Offspring, White Zombie, like,
Is any of it
whatever.
out on the internet right now?
Probably. Oh, like I'm sure it is.
What's the band called?
Kerosene was the name of the band. That yeah, that was what
Kerosene.
that was the
Okay.
one I spent the most time with. I was like a season where people were recording stuff on tape.
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh,
So
which is why I was like, I wonder if it's on the internet somewhere.
yeah,
So,
I don't think YouTube had been thought of at that
it
point. I'm showing my age.
is there a song that you were like, if anybody should go listen to it, or
I don't think it even none. I can say none of it is on streaming platforms. They'd never be able to find it
yeah, okay.
unless they followed me on Instagram at Shawn Matthew Vibes and sent me a really nice DM. I would share it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Bombshell was like the big one, and it was like crap recording on a Tascam like 8-track recorder that we did not use correctly.
yeah.
And it's just like you can hear in the background. Like it was just like we played it really well live, but in the recording it's like
Yeah.
and the music's in the background over top is terrible.
Did you sing or do you sing?
Oh, terribly. But
Terribly.
I do,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Okay,
like
okay.
it's a good way to wrap up the podcast if you want people to jump off as I can hum a few bars.
Heck yeah. Okay, okay. Well that brings me to my next question. So again, I don't know anything about music production or anything like that, but I did notice some voices on the various tracks that you
Oh
have.
yeah.
And were those did you alter your own voice? Obviously, I feel like there was a girl on there and you probably didn't alter your own voice to get
It's
her voice, but
falsetto.
yeah.
No,
It's
it's not.
falsetto.
It's falsetto. I sing
And
those part. I turn the shower on cold and I
falsetto
sing those parts.
falsetto voice change.
Yeah, falsetto.
Because that's definitely not your voice. So where did those come from? Did you partner with people or
I do partner with a lot of people.
okay?
So the tracks that, depending on which tracks you've listened to,
What
um,
about like your most recent one?
yeah, so work to the beat. Actually, those vocals are this. So I license those vocals. So for anybody who makes
Okay.
music, you can find some really cool like bits and pieces on Splice, and
Okay.
basically you can kind of like Legos and build like little things together, and like the raw materials are never finished. But
Yeah.
that's those particular vocals came from Splice. You could go back and recreate my track, or at least the vocal part of it, if you wanted to.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so those vocals have been used by a couple other people and who've done entirely different things with it.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
There's
Okay.
like an enormous amount of like processing, and they look and sound nothing like what they did originally. But
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So like what percentage of the music that you have on Spotify would you say is a random voice like that versus someone that you partnered with? Just
ooh, let me
rough
think here.
estimate, just random.
Honestly, most of it that's on Spotify, most of the
Mhm.
stuff that's on Spotify is stuff that I've licensed through like singers over the internet or splice vocals. Like
Okay.
it's a little different animal. Like whenever you go to record, and it's a different skill. It's a whole higher echelon of skill, honestly,
Yeah.
in recording vocals, because
Yeah.
just like having somebody sing well is just like a part of the equation. And
Mhm.
then being able to like record that well and
Right.
clean it up and then add the stereo width.
Right.
I mean, there's engineers that just focus on that and do a very good job of it.
Yeah.
So like I've got a ton of stuff that's in the back catalog that's recorded that I've partnered with local artists that I like love and trust and believe in. And honestly, like I'll say that my ability to process those vocals in a way that I feel like is up to my standards, like gosh, I'm just gonna sit on this for right now. Like I'm not ready to
Yeah.
put my name on it.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's a neat thing of just getting into EDM world. Let me ask you this today: if someone wanted to do what you did, I mean, it seems like I mean you have the social media presence. You have seems like you've networked with a lot of people, and you're pretty well known in the EDM space. How does someone do that? And it sounds like you did it pretty quick.
Yes and no. Yeah, yeah, yes and no. I did it quick. I'll say I was making what I'll call like really terrible music for a very long time. So I learned a lot of ways to make to make stuff that I didn't like.
Yeah.
So I found all the doors not to open.
Okay.
But if somebody, I mean, honestly, people can go out there and get to where I'm at without having to spend 20 years on it. And I
Yeah.
see it all the time. Like I mentioned that I was in this mentorship, and I wasn't the only one. There was really kind of like a small community of people that were all like in a mentorship at different stages alongside of me.
Yeah.
And we stayed connected through like a Discord on the internet.
Mhm.
And I saw people that were coming up that had like no experience, like no music theory background, didn't
Yeah.
play an instrument, had never sang before, didn't have any software, and or it just it started from zero.
Yeah.
And in the span of 6 months, with a lot of hard work and some guidance from the right people, they were making great music.
Wow. Cool.
So, how does one get there? I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, there is a certain element of, you've gotta have the tools and know how to use them, I think is really what it comes down to.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's interesting because one thing that I've been thinking a lot about with doing this podcast is connecting with a group of people that are also on this venture, and like I mean, it's out there. I just haven't looked. And there's a lot of time that I spend in the studio of like tinkering with OBS to figure out like how to do the scene switching to make it do it automatically, and like researching all the cameras, and you can do a lot of reading, but it definitely helps to just talk to someone and be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
yeah.
And
And you make a really good point too, and, like, I had a thought about this recently. So I've networked with other artists, other DJs, ever since I've been doing this thing.
yeah.
And really for me, my light bulb moment wasn't until I like reached out to someone to mentor me who was light years ahead of where I was.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, granted, there's a lot of cross learning with other people that have been in a similar stage that I'm at,
Mhm.
but also like if I'm going to try and climb Mount Everest, it's not going to make it a whole heck of a lot easier if I go up with a bunch of other people who've also never climbed
That's
Mount
so
Everest.
true, yeah.
Like I'm going to bring a Sherpa, somebody who goes up
Yeah,
and down that mountain every day,
yeah,
or maybe not every day, but like, so that's really what I needed. And that was my catalyst is I needed somebody who had walked that road before and
yeah,
kind of told me like, hey, these are the things that you need to be focusing your time on. And these are the things that are just wasted cycles.
right.
So, I mean, that was how I got there. And
So to do that, one of the thoughts that I have is like, I mean, yeah, there's some big YouTubers and whatnot that I could reach out to or whatever, but the likelihood of them even responding or even seeing whatever message that I put out there is probably slim to none. And so like when you trained in England and all that, did you did you see like a class and you signed up for it and you paid, or like you're like, "Hey, check out my music," and it was like a drawing of like them handpicking you and stuff like that?
there was definitely an interview process.
Yeah, okay.
There was an interview process, and gosh, I can't remember how I initially saw it, but it was one of these guys, and I don't want to name drop too much.
Yeah.
It was a personality who puts a lot of like YouTube, like I'm sorry, not YouTube, like a lot of reels on Instagram, where he'll do like a thing like, hey, here's this big name DJ doing this special thing, and then like pause the video and say, and here's how he did it.
Yeah.
And so he's putting a lot of content like that out there, and
Okay.
like I was impressed by it, and like I remembered seeing at one point something about like he was taking in, yeah, mentees into a program, and it wasn't necessarily that specifically, but I remember having seen it. So
Uh,
reached out to him as DMs. I'm like, hey, would you be interested in helping a guy like me learn a couple things?
right.
And then I kind of got folded into the program. But I
Cool.
mean, there are honestly like it's death by a thousand cuts to try and figure this stuff out just
Yeah,
by random YouTube videos
it
alone.
is.
You may
Yeah.
never get there because everybody
Mhm.
has the answer.
Yes.
And honestly, like it's packaging it up into something that you can do something with. I
Yeah.
think was like what made it really work. Now,
Right.
the path that I went with my particular mentor was did a fantastic job. And his whole team did,
Right.
but it wasn't the only one that I could have worked through.
Right.
So I did. I did something similar early on in DJing with my controller, but before I started getting into CDJs,
Mhm.
um, with Crossfader, which is another training company out. I think they're also actually based out of the UK. dude named Jamie from CrossFader.
Okay.
I don't know him personally, so I'll name drop him.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but like the difference there is, I could have learned most of the things that his program shared by miscellaneous YouTube videos, but I would have taken 100 wrong turns. But
Yeah.
having it packaged up and say like these are the basics that you start with, and these
Yeah.
are the moderate techniques, these are the advanced techniques, and
Right.
these are the things you use in these genres, and these are the things that are less common. And I think having like really somebody walk me through it as a journey as
Yeah.
opposed to piecemealing it together is
Right.
what helped.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Tool Room Records, like they have a whole university that they offer. I mean, there's probably 20 different ones out there, but
Hmm.
you gotta treat it like an education because it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, dude, I will say, and there's nothing on YouTube, there's nothing on Reddit that told me how to do this. So I have a Rode Rodecaster Pro 2, and I have these like all these microphones plugged into it. And my goal was to do the advanced scene switcher on OBS to where if I'm talking, I want that camera to show. Dude, I literally like, and the other thing with just starting something like this is it's crazy how long you think something takes and then how long it actually takes. Um, it probably took me like 12 plus hours of tinkering to figure out the scene switcher. Like I was Googling it. I was on Reddit. I was watching YouTube videos. Like nothing showed me how to do this. And I even was asking OBS about it. No. I'm sorry, ChatGPT about it. And ChatGPT was like, all right, here's the steps. And I followed the steps. It's like, it's still not working. What is going on?
Right.
And like, it kept troubleshooting different things and all that. And like, nothing. And randomly, on OBS, I was like adding a mic and I was like, wait, what's this do? And then I figured it out. But I don't think I would have figured it out had I not known first in my research that mic one starts at channel 3. And so yeah, it's just this crazy
Yeah.
crazy thing. And I really wanted to do this because I want to make this as easy to use as possible. So I'm sorry, I just went on a rant about myself for a little bit, but back to music. So the next I think topic is, so you had a pretty nice, we'll say cushy job. You were
Yeah,
working in
that's
the
fair.
corporate world.
That's fair.
Yeah, you were working in the corporate world and you just decided that you were going to quit. And just to share a little bit about like where you were at with your family, and like, I mean, you have kids,
It's true.
and like
True.
holy moly, that's got to be intimidating.
Yeah, it was pretty intimidating. And like link the timelines together. Like, I had this like near death experience where, I was touch and go. And so at that point I knew that I needed to like reposition what I was doing with my life if I was
Yeah.
going to try and like fulfill what I believed was my purpose. So
Mhm.
that's what made me want to make the jump and get out of my, white collar cushy, job doing statistics and analytics and stuff.
Yeah.
It was definitely scary and it was challenging, and thankfully through a little bit of courage and good luck and we'll say good timing,
Yeah.
smart business, we were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And so like how we got there is we have a family business which is a which is a day spa, which is, yeah, you imagine it's statistics and DJing and day spas.
Yeah.
But by the way, if you come, you're not going to get a massage from me. I don't do that. I run operations.
Yeah,
I run operations.
those 3 things connect really well together to just,
Yeah, that didn't happen. But yeah, so the way it started was, I think when I'll give a little background on this whole day spa thing and how that allowed me to get out of my white collar jobs.
Okay.
We're excellent to go with this, but my wife had, yeah, when our kids were little, they were just the age they were heading off to school, and she was, interested in, she'd been a stay at home mom, and she wanted to, start, getting back out and making some money. And we
Yeah.
had a friend and a neighbor who had mentioned, this whole like microblading thing, which is eyebrows. And she's
Okay.
like, "Hey, this sounds interesting. Kind of like to take a course." And I'm like, "Well, that sounds great. Let's go for it." So she did. She took a course. She started doing it, and and that evolved into like a small salon type of a thing. And she's largely working by herself. She learned to, became an esthetician and did the whole thing. And, it was like her, and then she, hired somebody and then hired, another person. It was like her and one or two other people in like a pretty small environment for a long time. And
Okay.
then she was managing it just fine by herself. So
Yeah.
it was small and it
Yeah.
was it was enough.
Right.
And then it was about, I guess it was last August. Yeah, last August. She got this idea for this thing that was a little different. It was a thing called the Japanese head spa.
Okay.
And it's this thing that she had seen on TikTok from some like Japanese influencer at the time, and it was like a different type of a thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like therapeutic, and it was like exciting, and it was fun to do and fun to watch, and it was like incredibly complicated.
Okay.
But she's like, hey, I kind of would like to do this thing and like to figure it out and add it on to what I'm doing. So we figured it out and we partnered with it was a lot to figure out because we had to figure out like equipment to make it happen, which is like all this special customized equipment. We had to figure like how to turn this into like a whole service. Like,
Yeah.
we had to figure out, like, what products we're gonna use, so we partnered with a company out of Italy to make the products for us to use in the
Mm-hmm.
service technology because there's some testing. There's actually a lot went into it, and I'm, like, working my white collar job, doing
Yeah.
statistics and, like, making beats, and, like, as much as I can, I'm, like, on the phone with, somebody in China, like, trying to get these things made up.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had a couple of 'em made up, and then, like, as soon as she started, like, instantly blew up. Like, it got huge really fast.
Really.
Yeah, like, overnight, like, virality on TikTok, on Instagram, and everywhere is in radio stations started picking it up, TV stations started picking it up. We're getting,
Wow.
yeah, and then so
Wait,
her
can I ask? This was for eyebrows?
no, no, this wasn't for eyebrows. The eyebrows are what
Oh,
started. It was
okay.
eyebrows and then eyelash extensions, and she was doing makeup and stuff. But she's like,
Yeah.
this is a hard business to scale up. And then this
Yeah.
Japanese head spa thing. So it's like, what it's like is it's and she can explain this way better than I can because again,
Sure.
I'm not an esthetician,
Yeah.
and I do operations and business stuff with it. But
Yeah.
it's like it's like imagine like those lawn sprinklers that are kind of shaped like this thing, and they go
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
back and forth. It's like
Uh-huh.
that, but it's inverted, and it goes over your head,
Okay.
and then that's like the core of it, and it feels like those like little egg cracker devices. You ever done those things with a wire, and you feel like you're
Yeah.
cracking an egg on your head, and then
Uh-huh.
it's like
Yeah.
across your scalp? It feels like that, but it's like times 100, and it lasts for like an hour.
Oh.
And so it's a big ASMR experience,
Oh.
and like really, it's like a scalp treatment is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
I see. Okay.
yeah, people just like pass out immediately because it's so relaxing, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, my scalp feels great. I look good. My hair looks good. Everything's good."
Oh, wow.
Uh, and I've like gone way out of how I was able to leave my job. But what I was driving at is
No,
like
you're good.
her business, like immediately she needed to build an enterprise,
Yeah.
and so she needed the help.
Yeah.
I had gone through like my health thing, and like I needed a way to like restructure my life. So like it just makes sense. And so I took a leap of faith, left my white collar job to run operations for the business. So what that looks like is it's like all the small business turning into a big business problems. Like,
Yeah.
how do we figure out how to handle like large amounts of money? How do we handle
Right.
like actual legitimate advertising?
Right.
How do we s- set expectations for people and treat them fairly? And how do we
Right.
hire and onboard? And how do we keep ourselves in compliance and
Yeah.
all that stuff? So
So, okay, so where were you in that stage when you quit? Like, did you have this prototype from that you said you're trying to get stuff like equipment made from China and all that? And
we were like, I want to say we were like 2 or 3 months into the journey, long enough to realize
okay,
that she was in way over her head. She is incredibly skilled. She's gifted. She's a fantastic business leader. I could never do what she does.
sure,
But there was so much to be done that there was no way she could handle it on her own.
okay,
Because she went from having like a couple people to having an army
yeah,
and then like, how do we layer leadership? How do we even communicate things? How do we
right.
schedule people?
But so okay, so 2 to 3 months in though,
2 to 3
like,
months in, we realized that like
but where were you like what level of Like, did you have the prototype or whatever you wanna call it
Oh,
in?
yeah, it's 2 to 3 months after going live.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
all the
that took even longer to do that, I'm sure.
yeah, all the prototyping, like, I was still, like, working my job. We were, like, figuring all that stuff out, and it was like I was moonlighting trying to
Yeah.
help her business,
Right.
and then after it launched, and then it's like, "Hey, now we gotta figure
It
out how to."
blew up after it launched, and you're like, "Hey, this is a good
Yeah,
opportunity for me."
she needed the help, the business needed the help. By the way, it's Omega Beauty and Wellness in Cincinnati,
Say it
Ohio.
again?
Omega Beauty and Wellness,
Alright.
AKA Omega Beauty, OmegaBeautyScentsy.com, that's what it is.
I was gonna say, do you sell products online as well, or is it
We
just
no,
a
it's entirely
physical location?
storefront. So it's
Okay.
in, so we have a couple locations. One's in downtown Cincinnati, about a block from the casino
Okay.
in the Pendleton neighborhood,
Yeah.
and we've got another one on the west side. It's a couple doors down from the Dent Schoolhouse, and
Nice.
like there's enough demand. We could open more, but right now it's like we want to try and be good in a couple places before we get bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's trying to give the best experience possible. So we're keeping it to just two for now.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
So it sounds like you were like, "Okay, I see the potential for this venture." So and your wife's making some money as well, and maybe you're making some money doing DJ and, other things as well,
Yeah, it
so
wasn't yeah, it wasn't head spa money, but it was
yeah.
something. Imagine that, putting beats on Spotify doesn't pay as much as, like, providing a real valuable
Oh, no?
service to somebody.
Huh, interesting.
People will actually pay for that.
Yeah, yeah, so,
When you actually take care of somebody, it's
so
has value.
financially, it sounds like maybe you had to take a little bit of a pay cut before it took
It
off,
was a
and
risk for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you figuring out, like, how do we sort out insurance and,
yeah. Ho
uh
how long did it take for you to, like, start to think about quitting your job before you actually quit?
I feel like it was. I mean, like, I had been in the same role for quite a while,
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't wanna knock where I was at 'cause I had a fantastic experience and worked with some wonderful people,
yeah,
and it was a big chapter in my life.
yeah,
So that's my qualifier, um, but I had been there for about 10 years
okay.
and largely doing the same thing. So there's a piece of me that for a few years was, like, getting the itch and wanted to branch out in a different
Yeah,
direction.
yeah.
So, like, I had been dreaming to some extent for a few years about, like, hey, what if?
Mhm.
What if I, take a step out and do something different, chase my
Yeah,
dreams? But
yeah.
I didn't really start actively trying to strategize around it until, gosh, I guess it was about the time that, this whole head spa thing blew up and I was in and had my health crisis. It's like, well,
Right,
let's make a path. Let's figure it out.
right.
So I'd say a few months.
Yeah, okay.
And then, like, of course, all the stuff that we didn't think about, it was a few months afterward. It was like
Yeah,
scrambling to try and, like, make life work.
right. I mean, I imagine health insurance was probably a factor and
Yeah, yeah, you can figure out health insurance,
yeah,
and then, man, people that go through the marketplace for health insurance, like, that are doing their own insurance,
yeah,
like, it is a very different experience
I bet.
than when you sign up at your W-2 job in
Right.
November, and they give you a packet, and you get your HR compliance person or whatever,
Yeah,
and they're like, "Hey, here's all your wonderful benefits and your insurance, and we love you so much, we just want you to stay another year."
right.
And then you go do it yourself, and then I feel it's like a chop shop. I
Yeah,
feel like I'm like cattle being sent out to
right.
slaughter. It's like
Yeah,
it's not the same at all.
yeah. So, what were, like, I mean, obviously, it was scary, but, like, can you elaborate on, like, the fears and stuff like that a little bit?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, yeah, so for sure a big one was how are we going to manage risk was a big part of it.
Mm,
So,
within
like
the business or within your household?
both.
Okay.
Both for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, within the let's say within the household and like our family budget to the extent that like we had two incomes and
Mm,
then now we have a singular income. Like
yeah.
I had my steady Eddie salary job and then like I knew how much was going to be getting deposited every other week into the bank account.
Yeah.
Easy. And in the business, like we didn't really plan our budget and finances on that ever even existing. So it's like
Right.
anything that happened there was bonus. And it's like,
Yeah.
great. And then before long, it's like, hey, this is like now the dominant thing in our life. So like, so when I shuffled over to also be a part of the business, Yeah, it was scary and it was risk because if the business failed, then our family failed and there would be
Yeah.
no real substantial income for it.
Right.
So
Right.
that was terrifying.
Right.
And then, to that extent, like that also meant we had a lot of responsibility in managing
Yeah.
risk for the business because like not only was there a possibility of us becoming financially unstable for ourselves, but
Mhm.
we still do have a very large team of people that work there, and we now see a ton of clients in this business.
Yeah.
So it's like, gosh, if we aren't treating this like seriously, and if we're not taking it seriously, we could ruin other people's lives. I mean,
Right.
gosh, what if we get reckless and we
Right.
don't take care of our clients or equipment? And God, what if somebody gets hurt? What if somebody gets sick?
Right.
It's a lot of stuff to take seriously. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's where, we started taking things into account. Like, I mean, we always had been, but like, how do we standardize the way that we keep our equipment clean? Is
Right.
this written down so that everybody knows how to do it? We
Yeah.
have like, maintenance programs? And by this is nothing about music. This is
Yeah, no,
about
no, it's
knowledge
okay.
base. But yeah, getting all that stuff figured out to try and I think the scary part was realizing how much that we had to stand up really, really
Yeah, right.
like
So, okay,
we have
so
like all these families that are now depending on the income that they're earning
right.
from our business. Like we got to make sure this business stays viable for them too, because it's not just us that's in this boat.
So before I get into my first my next question, how many employees do you have? Can I ask?
You can. We'll say I don't know if you know what I mean. A few.
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
I don't know if I'm actually allowed. I'd have to ask my boss, who is my
Yeah,
wife,
yeah, yeah.
if
No,
I'm allowed to talk about that.
no
I'll
worries.
defer that question. You could probably guesstimate from looking at it, going out, looking at megabeautycincy.com, try and schedule. You can probably get an idea of approximately how many are there.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
So,
enough to
right.
keep up with demand. That's how many.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the question that I was gonna ask was oh, did I lose it?
Probably did. I just distracted. I stole it from you.
I know, right? Um, oh man. I don't remember. So so you've scaled this, and how long you've been doing it for?
Yeah, I guess we're pushing year one.
Okay.
Well,
Wow.
to be fair, okay, so the business has been around since 2017, and
Yeah.
it's been like one full year of explosive growth.
Right. Oh, I know what I was gonna ask. So in your day job, your corporate job that you had, it sounds like you're using a lot of what you learned in that corporate job for
Exact
this.
same stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Exact same stuff. We didn't really like tell the viewers like what that was all about, but yeah, statistics and a lot of like business optimization, process optimization, analytics kind of stuff. And I don't want to get too techy, but basically just imagine in a role where I'm figuring out how to make the back end of a business work correctly and make
Yeah.
teams be able to work effectively together, and how do
Yeah.
you make technology and people work, and how to, okay, so we got to deliver this product or the service, and like how do we make that happen quickly and efficiently so that it's the right price for people, so that the customers are getting it at a price that they want, and the business is able to make profit, and it's good and it's high quality and
Yep.
it's good for it's like all the things you can imagine that would go into that. And all of a sudden I'm working for for the family business. It's like I have to use all that same stuff. Like I just left this job but I came right back to it. It's like a boomerang.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome.
like systems, like here's a fun little example. Like, and all of a sudden we have like all this, you know, client information and data. And it's like, wow, we got to be stewards of all this stuff and keep it
Uh-huh.
safe, because
Yeah.
I mean, like nobody was trying to get into my email inbox before when we were like two
R-
people with 10 clients, but
Right.
now like half the community is involved and we got to take this seriously. So
Yeah, so that's fascinating because I know at the corporate job that you had line of sight into a whole bunch of different areas in this business, and you basically fixed things, if you will. Like you were the problem solver to make it. In are you okay if we talk about the
sure,
methodology?
sure. Yeah.
So the methodology, Lean Six Sigma, is what I think your primary tool that you used, right? And
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
the way that Lean Six Sigma was explained to me was if you picture a target and you're throwing you're trying to shoot an arrow at it, that's one of the things, so accuracy. And then you've got imagine driving to work every day and you want to account for all the stoplights and the traffic and the time of day and stuff like that, and like so the speed at which you can get to work and stuff like that. So those are like the
Mm.
two elements that and they're obviously they're very complex, I took the yellow belt class, which is like basically me in kindergarten for this, but
Oh, you're
like
underselling it.
DMAIC and all that, like I still remember all that, and so
Oh, yeah, all the fun acronyms. I mean, yeah, I think you did a great explanation of it. Yeah, so and like really too, gosh, people are gonna fall asleep if I try to get into a TED talk about
yeah, right, right, right,
business process optimization. But you basically imagine there's like two different methodologies that had different origins, one being lean manufacturing and the other being Six Sigma. And over time, those things kind of folded into one another, but
yeah,
one being about the relentless elimination of waste from a process. And all these fun
yeah,
little acronyms and things you can remember to figure all that stuff out. But
mhm,
just taking away things that don't need to be there. And like Toyota was a big part of like pulling that all together.
right,
And then the other part is Six Sigma, and then it's a different methodology, and it's I feel like lean is more hands on. It's more at the point where things are being done. Like you got to go see, you got to go look and see what's happening, and it's a lot of like really practical application of like some tools and like
yeah,
using the people that are like right there in front of it to figure things out.
mhm,
It's not data heavy and lean. Typically, there is data in lean, but it's a lot of getting your hands dirty.
mhm,
Um, and I'm trying to keep this very topical because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a podcast. And on the Six Sigma side, it's about it all comes down to like reducing variation and stuff.
yeah,
And so how does one do that? Well, first you have to understand what you're looking at, and that's where like kind of the science comes in.
mhm,
So being able to understand different things. Is this like kind of variations like noise in the process is it normal? Is this like or is this something special that's happening? And
mhm,
how to understand what you're looking at.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I did. And fun fact, I got into all this stuff like as a kid in a hot dog factory.
Oh, no way. Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
yeah, in a hot dog factory. That's where it's all started from.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I mean they use it a lot in like assembly lines, like you mentioned Toyota and stuff like that, which is where it originated, I believe, right?
No, I'm not the historian, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah they're the ones.
They
Some would
they at
argue,
least
depending,
pioneered it.
some would argue that it goes as far back as Henry Ford, but then a
Uh,
lot of other people come back and say no, it certainly did not.
okay, okay. Well, anyway, let us know in the comments what you think about this very controversial topic of where Lean Six Sigma came from. No,
Controversial, hot button topic.
yeah, yeah.
This is gonna be the cover image for
Yeah,
the
right?
podcast.
He knows Lean Six Sigma is gonna be the title and everybody's gonna be
God, I hope not. This is supposed to be about EDM,
so
and we're explaining variation. That's not.
well,
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. That's part of life. I mean, that's how my opportunities to be where I'm at with my music have brought me here. Because
yeah.
were it not for learning about this stuff in the hot dog factory, I would have never ended up in the you know white collar job where I was, and had it not been for those skills, would have never been able to have like successfully launched like a big enterprise of a salon, which is day spa, it's plural, which
Yeah.
has allowed me to be able to pursue my music. So I can't knock it because it's a part of my journey.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about just from how someone can get started with EDM and stuff like that, but going with the business venture, what advice would you give somebody starting a business?
Ooh.
Well, and maybe even running it too. Like you can go whichever path your heart desires with this answer.
Oh gosh. Well, if I were to try and offer some, and I'm probably not the absolute best at offering this specific advice for young entrepreneurs, but I
Sorry.
would say that it is important to like to offer something that people want and need,
Yeah.
that you are able to actually provide.
Yes.
If it's something that they don't want or need, it's probably a waste of time.
Yeah.
And if you can't reasonably provide it, maybe not with what you have and know today, but with what you can acquire or learn,
Right.
then if you can't build it or get it, then probably not a smart choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're trying to like, I don't know, start a I don't know, water bottling company and you're in the middle of the desert, it's probably not the right business venture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
unless you can figure out how to do it, then it's the best business venture because they don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then the other thing that I heard you say is you kind of quit because you wanted to pursue your passion
Sure.
and all that. And one of the things that I've struggled with trying to think about is, well, so I think it's hopefully other people have watched other podcasts of mine, but I'm a wheelchair tennis coach and I coach wheelchair, blind and visually impaired, adaptive tennis. I coach able-bodied people too, but like and I've gotten more and more into the disabled sports community. I just had a Paralympic basketball coach on, and it's been awesome hearing their stories, but I think there was a time in my life when I wasn't doing tennis, I wasn't coaching, I wasn't doing podcasting and all that where I did things. I liked some of the things that I was doing, but it's so easy to tell somebody find your passion, but to me,
Mhm.
I think finding your passion is a hard thing to do.
Yes.
So like you kinda almost lucked into it maybe a little bit because you started doing music back in high school and all that, and I guess I did
Fifth
too with
grade.
oh,
It
yeah.
all started for me.
Okay.
But it wasn't a straight line journey for you.
Sure.
You were so right. Like figuring out what your thing is, like that's a that's a lifelong endeavor. Yeah, figuring out what your thing is. Like you could spend your entire life and never actually get there.
Yeah.
And like I definitely had seasons of life that I ebbed and flowed out of different stuff. And
Yeah.
like here's a fun one, bow fishing. You familiar with bow fishing?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah, bow fishing, and for those that don't know, that's like it's like archery, but you're shooting at fish.
Yeah.
So just think about that, not fishing and not archery, but both at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's usually like on a boat in the middle of like a lake or down a
Right.
river, and it's late at night. It's like, you know, 2 a.m., 4 a.m. You got loud country music and you're shooting arrows into the water, shooting at fish, and there's blood and guts everywhere, and it's the whole thing. Yeah, I had that season.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my passion. This is what
Yeah.
I was made for.
Right.
And there were a lot of other things that I thought that I was made for. And ultimately I found that like I had to ask myself, is this filling my cup or emptying my
Mm,
cup? And with bow fishing, I felt like, and it was, by the way, it's a really cool sport. I don't want to knock that because
yeah.
like that is the thing for
Yeah.
some people, but it
Yeah.
wasn't for me
Right.
because it felt like it was taking more out of me than it was putting into me.
Mm,
And so I think like that point of reflection for me was like, hey, what are the things that are filling me back up?
yeah.
And the only thing that just consistently stayed on the list was being a musician, being an artist, and creating. And it's
Cool.
so that was how I figured it out. Maybe that's an approach other people can take too if they're trying to figure out their thing. Is like, hey, is this draining? Do I have infinite energy to
Right.
do this one thing? What's
Right.
what's the thing that I can stay up all night working on and I don't get tired,
Right.
and I'm gonna jump right back up in the morning and do more of it? That might be your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good call, but at the same time, then it's something, I mean, especially from a passion standpoint, um, it's something that you probably most people couldn't quit their day job for,
True.
you know?
True. Well, couldn't, shouldn't, won't, will. I mean, those are things. I mean,
So true.
like one might argue, there was a period of time where I thought I can't quit my day job.
Yeah.
I can't quit it, but I
Right.
sure as hell did,
Right. Yeah.
and I am still relieved of that day job.
Right.
And so, like, I think there's a part of it is just like challenging. Is like, how can't is this can't? Is it
Right.
all the way can't, or is it a fear of what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh man, my mind's going a bunch of different places, but I'll start with this. I think it was Alex Hormozy. I don't do. Are you familiar with who he is?
Yeah, no, no, actually
He
not even at all.
he's a guy that I've been listening
Oh, I
to.
know Alex, old man Hormozy's boy. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. No, I've been listening to him on YouTube recently. He's started this gym business and he's made several hundreds of millions of dollars from what I've gathered from what he's been doing. And one of the things that he says was it's not necessarily the things that you do. And I'm gonna really butcher his quote, but it's something like it's not necessarily the things that you do, it's the things that you cut out of your life.
Yep.
And when you said the spear fishing, not spear fishing,
Both, yeah, the bow
bow
fishing thing,
fishing
cut it out.
and
And
cutting that
it's
out.
exactly right. And DJing the open format gigs. Hey, by the way, those places that I've spun out doing those kind of shows, I fantastic experience, great people. I enjoyed a lot of it. That
Yeah,
was not that specifically, even though it's so close to what I'm doing now. It
yeah,
wasn't filling my cup,
interesting.
and it takes a lot of cycles. I mean, like keeping up with like, hey, what's happening in top 40 music today at 8 p.m. because it's
Right,
different than it was yesterday, and it's like it made it difficult for me to really like be where I needed to be with the thing that I needed to be with, which
right,
is producing music, and, being an EDM artist. So
yeah,
yeah, so I shuttered that off, and I shuttered off 10 other hobbies along the way, and
right.
it sucks a little bit putting stuff in the yard sale.
Uh-huh.
But but being able to create that bandwidth for the thing that you're passionate about, I mean, that's pretty great. And
Yeah,
you asked about like quitting your job too. Like it can be reckless to go out and do that. So I'm not going to suggest everybody just go
right,
out and
right.
quit their day job. But
Well, I think one of the cool things that I heard you say is you didn't just quit.
it didn't.
Your wife was doing things already with the business, and you were doing some things on the side outside of work for EDM. It
Sure.
sounds like, and
Oh yeah,
also
for years.
also with your wife, with her business and all that. So, you know,
What I did is I held on to the thing that filled my cup, and I never fully let it go. And I
yeah,
always found a way to keep connected to that.
yeah,
And for some people, that might be like a business idea, and then maybe it doesn't make sense today to go out and go just like dump what they're doing and go chase after it. But it probably does make sense to not forget about it
right,
and to plan as much as one can plan,
yeah,
and then maybe wait for that opportunity where the tides of change do come,
right,
and then don't sleep on it. Like
right,
go run after it
right,
because it's probably won't be today. It took me until I was a grown adult, and then like finally one day it's like, hey, this is the time I can actually go do it.
yeah,
And I'm actually scared of never being able to do it. So that was what kind of gave me the nudge to jump out of the
yeah.
plane, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, that's so fascinating because like um I don't know. I probably can't recall this off the top of my head, but like there's interviews of people who are on their deathbed and it's like, "Hey, do you have any regrets?" And it's like I think a lot of people are like not taking the chance that I should have. And dude, that's I don't know. That's just so profound. So,
It's
anyway,
meta,
what's that?
meta. It's a meta concept here.
Yeah. Do you one of the questions that I had was do you prefer creating or performing?
Hmm.
Or no, no, no. I'm sorry. You not prefer, but what do you like more?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a bit of a complicated answer
You
to
can
that.
move this, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I can move. I can actually eat the mic. I
Yeah.
can until like I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a bit of a complicated answer. So, I think I love. I could spend infinite time like creating music,
Yeah.
and also creating music can be infinitely soul crushing.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Or any kind of art, anything creative, just like making
Yeah.
is like it can be extremely gratifying because you're like pulling a piece of yourself out and like
Yeah.
turning it into something and molding it, and
Yeah.
that's a cathartic experience.
Right.
I love the hell out of just like creating music,
Yeah.
and like there's a lot of really terrible ideas that come out in the process of trying to make a good one.
Right.
So it's also a very vulnerable thing to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, like you see some of the the most successful artists in any format, you know, you know, like actors, people that paint, people that make, you know, sculptures, musicians, and like a part of what they say in their journey to success is like, hey, you know, I got told no 1,000 times before I got
Right.
told yes, and I had my one big like thing.
Right.
So like that's very true. And
Right.
so in as much as creating is my favorite part, and it's a, again, I said a cathartic experience, it's also it can become soul crushing, like to
Right.
pour yourself into something and realize like, hey, there wasn't a guide to follow. There's no direct right answer. And what I made, gosh, maybe it didn't work.
Right.
And like, oh, that's like
Yeah.
it could be like a bad date. Now, having said that, like when it works and I've made something and it's fulfilled, like listening back to it, and it's like, hey, that this
That's
means
pretty
something to
cool.
me.
Yeah.
Or like when other people have reached back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like hearing what you just made, like it inspired me to go out and like make some new music. It's
That's
like, hey,
awesome.
this was a big deal for me to get a chance to experience what you created. And I've had like tons of those conversations lately.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
like that's what I'm in this game for.
Yeah.
And like on the other side of it too, like you know, we're comparing like performing versus creating.
Right.
Like performing too, that's more of an instant gratification.
Mm.
Um, because I mean, granted, and like I'll own it. Like so, being a DJ, it is a different experience of creation than say somebody that was, I don't know, playing the trombone on
Yeah.
stage because it's an instrument.
Yeah.
It's more difficult. Well, yeah, I'll call it. It's more difficult to like get up and play the violin, do the vibrato right there, and like make zero mistakes.
Right.
It's technical in that perspective,
Yeah.
and they are creating something in that moment.
Right.
So like what I'm driving at is that there's more instant gratification in being a DJ, and it's like the chops are easier to get down
Right.
to create an experience that's going to work and that are going to make people feel good. And it's like right then and there, I already know, hey, is this like setting the vibe that people are wanting right now? And if not, I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm going to take it a little different direction. I'm going to go further in this direction because it's working. Um, so it's more instant gratification, but also I'm not necessarily creating something in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm telling a joke that I've heard somebody else tell me before,
Yeah.
as opposed to like everybody's laughing at the joke that I just made up.
Right. Right. Interesting. So, okay. So, talk to me about process of creating and like so there's there's a book called by Stephen Pressfield. It's called the War of Art, and it's a really short book, but I read that and it's very fascinating because it talks about like creating and how like you got to get up and you got to do it even if you're not feeling it, and like sometimes you're gonna create a work of art, sometimes you're not, and
Yeah,
it almost depends on the day, if you will, and where your mind's at or whatever else. So, can you get into your experience with that?
for sure. For sure. It's like repetition. Kanye West talks about this. I think it's Kanye. I didn't catch this directly, and I'm gonna get on my perspective on it, but I think he refers to it as like practice beats.
Yeah.
So like he'll make just like hot garbage. I mean, probably not. Well, we won't get into the politics of Kanye, but like
No, no.
he's an artist who makes stuff.
Yeah.
Like just like make a bunch of stuff, and eventually like
Yeah.
you make 100 things, maybe one or two of them are going to really work.
Right.
Um, I can't remember which author it was. Said that if you're getting stuck with writer's block, you need to write one true statement. Who
Uh,
was it that said that? Somebody in the comments drop me a note. Who was that? I don't remember.
yeah.
And start with there is not Robert Frost. It was Robert Frost.
Okay.
Anyway, so my experience with it. So what I do for my creation process, um, there's like 1,000 different ways to slice it as an artist, but I feel like the best first step for me is to first be somebody who appreciates the art itself. So
Gratefulness.
yes, well, great gratefulness and also context.
Uh,
So like if I'm not the first person to ever go out and create a piece of music.
sure.
So I'm not creating this new format of human expression. It's music. It's
Mhm.
been there for a very long time. So like I have to be a fan first.
Yeah.
So that's what I start with is I start out by finding like, hey, like what is my inspiration? And I
Mm.
have to have a seed of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like sometimes it's a broad genre that I'm really like feeling. It's like, hey, this is the space that I want to create in, or it could be a mood, or it could be a very specific song or a moment in a song. Like, okay, in like Work to the Beat, for example, like all of that started from I was geeking out on some old Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't do that?
Right.
But I'm 41, so I do that.
Yeah.
When I'm like looking for inspiration, and there was like this song called "Into the Void," and I'm not expecting anybody to. Actually, maybe it is in some movies, I think too. But there's like this one like guitar like lick that's in part of it, and like as I was like geeking out, just listening to music as a fan, I was like, oh, like hey, there's three notes like, that kinda, like, sets the mood for this part of the song, and I'm like, there's a thing," and then so, like, it just planted a seed in my subconscious, and, like, I didn't take those 3 to do something with it, but, like, the way that those worked,
Yeah.
like, I went back and I recreated something, like, similar as, like, the seed for my track, "Work to the Beat," and, like,
Uh,
you know, 3 minutes of music, like, eventually, like, wrapped around that was completely different than anything that I had heard, but so what
yeah.
I'm saying is, like, if I was just trying to, like, start from nothing, my process needed to be not starting from nothing, needed to be something there.
Got it.
Mm,
Okay.
so inspiration, that's the starting point. Um
Interesting. Okay. So do you listen to current EDM
Oh,
to
yeah.
get your inspiration as well?
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. There's, like, a ton of that in there. So,
Yeah.
like, I've got my heroes that I'm following today, and
Yeah.
some people that are making new stuff in the last couple of years, like Knock 2's a baller. Troy Boy, I'm a fan of Troy Boy. If I could just work with one person in my life, it'd be Troy Boy.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've been on
Troy boy, you hear that? He
Troy
wants to
Boy.
work with you.
And he's got connections in the UK. I believe he's from the UK as well.
Okay.
Puts on a great DJ set too. Never actually seen him live. I've never been able to be in the same place at the same time as Troy Boy. Diplo, however, I've been
Okay.
in the Diplo. I know you're not seeing this probably because you've been dodging me for the last few years. But I
Dang, Diplo, what the
dang you,
heck?
Diplo. He actually gave me a banana once in Miami. Uh, it was a thing.
Wow.
He gave me a banana in Miami, and I saw him
Did
3 times
did
that
you
week.
coat it in plastic and
No,
frame
it
it?
didn't. I was
Oh,
like at the can I just tell the story?
yeah, go ahead.
So it was like I was down at Ultra Music Festival with a buddy just as a fan. And so during you get Ultra for Miami Music Week, like there's like Ultra proper, which is like 2.5 days, and it's like mostly like a like afternoon evening thing, but it doesn't go particularly early and doesn't go particularly late. So when you go to Ultra, or I would imagine there's other similar festivals like this, like you wrap your experience with like going to other shows in the area. And
Yeah.
so like during that period of time, it's like a lot of cool shows you can go to different places, different yeah, clubs, venues, whatever.
Uh-huh.
This is one particular day, a buddy and I had gone down to Miami for Ultra, and it was like a not not like time for the show to start yet. I can't remember what day it was on. We didn't book anything. Like we
Yeah.
hadn't booked anything. We were like behind. I don't know why. I'm just irresponsible. I have clinical ADHD, as I mentioned, so I was not thinking of tickets. And so we get to the day of the show, and there was like nothing anywhere to go to. Everything was sold out. All the cool pool parties with the people that like it was like scrolling through all the things to go to. It's like sold out, sold out, sold out. VIP for $900 or whatever. It's like not going there. Do that.
Yeah.
And then there was like this one random like warehouse show like by the airport, and it was like all usually on these shows like the more people that are on the flyer, and the smaller the font, probably the more local it is. And
Yeah.
I knew it's alphabetical because you don't want to make anybody feel left out. It's alphabetical. It's like 255 artists on there. I didn't went through about the first 50. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I don't dig that deep. Like some people would just like really geek out on the underground stuff. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
these people, but like we don't have plans.
Right.
And like the show doesn't start at Ultra, and it's not gonna get good until like maybe 4 o'clock or whatever. So like, well, let's just go down for like the morning afternoon, just like check it out, and like maybe see some cool people down there, get some cool local talent. I didn't realize that like once you get past the first 25, 30 shows in the flyer, people on the flyer, like there's some like relatively big names in there, but one of them was Major Lazer. And so we just like roll up to this thing by the airport. We got tickets for cheap to go to it. And we were like one of the first people to show up. and like one of the next people to show up right behind us was this black Escalade. And out of the Escalade rolls Diplo and Major Lazer, like right there in the parking lot at this
Nice.
like old beat up warehouse. It's actually a really cool event. I gotta plug it. It was like awesome. Get Lost Miami is what it was.
Okay, okay. In
Really
Florida.
blew my mind. But anyway, so like it just so happens that Major Lazer just took like one of the very first sets of like the whole experience. There was nobody there yet.
Yeah.
And so like in warehouse in like venue like one of four, I think it was, there were maybe like 150 people in there.
Mm.
And like I'd been a fanboy of Diplo for quite a long time. And so I'm like right there, and like here he shows up. I'm like, oh my gosh, not only did I see him in the parking lot, but he's like right here. And it's like a private show.
Yeah.
So I'm just like so pathetic. And I'm just like right there by the stage, just like staring up at him. And then I get into the snack box, and you could tell like I probably was getting hungry or thirsty or something because was probably breathing shallow. I don't know. Get to the snack box. He's like, here to give me a banana.
Uh,
I didn't get to keep the banana because the other 149 people were all like, "Oh, thank you. Would you like to share this banana?" And I'm like, "Well, I
did
wasn't."
you have any of the banana, or
I had a
did
bite of
other
I had
people?
one bite of the Diplo
Okay.
banana.
Okay. Wow.
I had to
Cool.
give had yeah.
Yeah.
Good energy, so I had to give the rest of the banana away.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I don't even know how I got on this story, but
I don't know.
inspiration, I think.
Yeah, inspiration.
Inspiration. So anyway, Diplo is one of mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
has been. He's one of them that has inspired me. Because we were talking about Nine Inch Nails and like who has inspired me as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
doing all this, do you have any? I'm sure you have a ton of stories that you could tell, but do you have one that comes to mind that is like maybe a crazy moment or time? Or
Yeah, I gotta go for it. Uh,
I do want to say I coach kids, so just
mm, yes,
take
gotcha.
it.
Yeah, okay, I got one. It was maybe like a light life lesson learned.
Okay.
Um, okay, so it was a 4th of July show, I think it was.
Okay.
And this is like going way back. So long time ago, and it was a private event. And knew the people who were putting it on. They're friends.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to DJ for the big 4th of July thing out in the middle of the country, middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And you invited me, and they invited my wife to go. And it was like in a farm, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, cool. We want you to DJ, and it's also going to have all the fireworks, and there's going to be like a big pool party. And also we're a bunch of, we're a bunch of country people, and we're going to go shoot some guns out in the woods.
Yeah.
And we're going to go shoot guns. We got all these cool guns. You want to go shoot some guns.
Uh-huh.
And I had some guns. I didn't have a lot of, I had my father had passed a couple years prior. I'm not a gun guy, just for the
Yeah.
record, I'm not.
Sure.
But my father had passed a couple years prior, and he had a lot of guns because he also, like me, was like ADHD and hyperfixated on things like getting a case full of guns. So when he passed, I got a whole bunch of guns. I'm like, great, I got a whole bunch of guns. And I got invited to this party. They're going to shoot a bunch of guns. I'm like, we're going to go shoot a bunch of guns. And I wasn't like a dummy with them, but I wasn't like out there shooting guns all the time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we'll just fast forward through it. I accidentally shot myself in the leg
No
while shooting
way.
guns.
Oh my God. What part of your leg?
The whole thing pretty much.
Oh no.
It was accidental discharge. And
Was it like a shotgun, or like
it
what
was a
kind of gun?
9mm.
Not okay.
It was a
Okay.
9mm. I was working in white collar America at the time too, so it was really interesting going back to work a couple days later,
Oh.
like all bandaged up, and tried to explain that
Were we
away.
working
We
together?
were working together.
I remember that now. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me.
I blame it on, it was like this junky like Beretta. And people may say Berettas aren't junk, but I'll tell you, the one that I had, I'd swear I didn't touch that thing. And this was like not a violent experience. It was like a
Yeah.
very fun, like jovial, like, hey, we were even like wearing earplugs and safety
Yeah.
glasses.
Yeah.
Like, but it was just a bunch of hillbillies shooting at like pop cans out on a rock out in the
Right.
woods.
Right.
And then like pow pow, like it felt like a rock hit me off a lawnmower, and I
Uh-huh.
felt it like right on the side of my leg, and I'm like, geez Louise, it's like I feel like something like ricochet, like a rock bounced back or something.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then it got like kind of weird. And I'm like, hey, that hurts a lot.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe I got grazed, and I looked down, I had a little sprinkle of blood, and I was like, oh no, goodness gracious, no. And my wife was shooting too. like this experience. Like everybody's like the few of us that were out there were like laterally, like kind of like shooting simultaneously in the same direction and what should have been safe. But I felt it on the right side of my leg, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my wife accidentally shot me. And or I didn't really totally know, but then I started to see a whole bunch of blood come out. And so like
Blame it on your wife, I see.
blame it on my wife, and then so like I quickly knew I needed to do some like right before like all the adrenaline rushed in. I'm like, I got to like this is serious. So I ripped off my belt, and then I like did the tourniquet around my leg, and I'm like, legs are important.
Yeah.
Lots of blood and important stuff in there. So I tourniqueted it real quick.
Only legs are important to some, Sean. Come on.
Mine,
I,
and again, this was not a violent experience.
I
This
don't
was
use
like
my
an
legs.
accident. And this was like a couple hours before I was supposed to start my set.
Oh
My
my
DJ set.
gosh.
But yeah, so anyway, I tourniquet my leg, and I'm like, Michelle, first thing you need to do is you need to call 911, and then you need to call up to the people at the house and tell them to come down here and bring some help right away. And then and then I fall over, and then she's freaking out. Somebody like comes rushing down, breaks her leg, and the worst part of it all was that in the between.
Wait, so you fell over because of the pain, or you fell
Yeah,
over
because I
because
had a
you
hole.
passed out?
No, because I didn't fall over from like it just I didn't pass out. I mean,
Okay.
like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't like a pass out kind of a thing, but it's like I'm bleeding a lot of falling
Yeah,
over. I'm
right.
not gonna
Yeah.
stand up anymore.
Yeah.
But the worst of the whole experience is we bring the lighthearted part of this is that I was wearing my favorite pair of jeans,
You
and
ruined them.
yeah, well, it wasn't just that I ruined them, but like when the experience started, I was like, I might get a the country and we're shooting guns, a good old time, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna DJ a show, so I need to look decent. So I'm wearing my favorite pair of jeans, and they only made one pair, and I had them. And then I got a hole in the side of them from a bullet apparently.
Yeah.
And then the people come down to help out, and they cut the jeans off right at the knee. I'm like, well, these are salvageable. So I got a pair of jean shorts, and
Yes.
then they brought me up to the barn, and then they're like, well, we got to do some more digging. So they cut them up a little bit higher, and so that's now I got a pair of denim underwear. And then it's like I can still do something with this. And then by the time that they got done passing me around to the paramedics and back to the hospital, I had like a loincloth, and it was the size of a coin purse. That was all that was left of my favorite pair of jeans.
Oh no.
And then like, we were ready to leave the hospital, and they're like, all right, you're good to go. I'm like, I don't have any clothes.
Just go out in your jeans.
And they were just so aghast that I
Speedo.
would like have a problem with like leaving like literally unclothed.
Yeah.
I also found out it was like not until the hospital that I learned that that hole in the side of my leg. I thought there was still a bullet in there, and I thought that my wife had shot me. It wasn't until I got to the hospital and doctors looked like, hey, in all the excitement, you didn't realize there was another hole up like by your groin, and it had gone like from groin down through the knee, like whole upper part of my leg just blasted right through it. It was, I mean, it was accidental discharge. I tried to go back and DJ my set afterward because honestly, it was like not. I get really lucky and things were okay.
Yeah.
But gun safety is
So
important.
you
is
went
less,
back and you DJ'd after.
No, I couldn't because
Oh.
my wife was upset about it. I didn't have pants. I had a loincloth, and they gave me some like much larger than I am sweatpants from Lost and Found at the hospital.
Yeah.
Vibe
Wow.
was off. Vibe was off.
Yeah. Okay. So
That was the craziest thing at the show, though, was getting shot in the leg by myself.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I know of someone who random side note who got shot. He when you ask him what happened, he says he says he got shot, and then you're like, really, like how? And you were wondering if he's in a gang or at a bar, got in a fight or whatever. He was at his school. They were playing intramural basketball during recess, and a bullet from, I don't know, really far away, I think it was like a mile or something like that. The school was in the country, and this guy was shooting at targets or something like that.
It's right past, yeah.
It went straight through, like there's woods and stuff like that. It went through all the woods, and it hit him, and it paralyzed him.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, my experience wasn't nearly that dark because I was
yeah.
giggling and having a good time with the paramedics.
Right.
Like, I was just totally not aware of the seriousness that everybody else saw in the situation. I was ready to go back and spin some records because I was other than the hole in the leg, the pants loincloth
Yeah.
situation. Other than that, I was having a good day.
So, for those that don't like graphic, tune out of this part, but did the bullet go through the bone?
No,
It
no,
did.
thankfully, like, it I just went through the meat.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
That's, I think, pretty fortunate. And did it hit any arteries or anything
No,
like
I
that?
got incredibly lucky. They said that
Wow.
I like how far of a travel path or whatever it's called, like from like up top in the business area all the way down through the right at above the knee.
Wow.
So like
That's
the whole femur
crazy.
length and hit like nothing of importance along the way.
Yeah. Wow.
And thankfully, the happiest part of the story, if because my pants was not the happiest part of the story, but the happiest part of the story was that like, and it had been mentioned, like I had my crappy Beretta and I brought a few other guns. My wife was shooting one of the other guns, and it was a much larger gun that I had been shooting immediately prior with like some very dangerous rounds in it. It was
Yeah.
some so anyway, like I was very thankful that it was this little 9 millimeter with like little ball rounds, and like
Mm.
that's the one that I like made the big dumb mistake with.
Yeah.
Uh, like it could have been,
Wow.
it got ugly, but it didn't. Didn't get ugly at
Yeah.
all.
So, okay, the other question, was it in your pocket or was it in your
It
hand
was in my
or?
hand. It was like
Okay.
in between, like because we were out there shooting for like an hour,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So like I'd shoot a clip and then shoot a clip and you kind of go back and forth, and everybody else who was involved was doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
it was like holding it down, and then like I swear I wasn't like touching the trigger, but
Right.
either I was or was a problem with the gun. But I probably was. I probably made the mistake. I was probably touching the trigger
Sure.
because I'm an idiot
All right.
and unaware situationally where my hands are.
All right.
And I must have like just like tapped the trigger and like as I was holding. Actually, I'm left-handed. And
Same.
and then, oh, well, be careful around a Beretta.
Yeah, right. Wow, that's
So, like, I must have just, like, just, like, just barely tapped it and
yeah. Okay, so before I get in, I wanna get into your future with EDM and
yes,
all that, but
weapon-free. There will be no guns.
before yeah, right? Before I do that, you have another near-death experience to talk about, potentially, unless you have
Oh,
second thoughts about it.
hold on, I remember which one it is. I got more than a couple.
Okay.
Um, let's see here.
We've if you tell one now, we've done one about one an hour. We're at like
1
140,
an hour?
141. So I mean, how many do you have? Because
Oh,
we might be going for like 7 or 8 out. No, I'm kidding.
we could make it a pretty long podcast. We could probably the time when I was a kid and fell out of my dad's El Camino when
Oh,
it was in motion. That wasn't near death. That was like pretty banged up.
okay, okay.
That's a lighthearted jovial.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, there was probably like getting it, getting a near. So I want to be guarded with how much that I share
yeah, yeah. I
because this
appreciate
is a
that.
this is somewhat a family show.
It's
So,
somewhat, yeah, yeah,
well, let's say that I was on I had gone to Russia.
yeah. Okay.
So that's a start. This was years ago. I was working in steel at the time. Is this the one? Is this the one you're looking for? I can't remember if you're looking for a specific one.
No, no, no. I don't think I know any of them.
Okay, well, here's a fun one. And like maybe it wasn't that near death, but it was like pretty dicey.
Okay.
So I was going to fly into Russia, and my wife would give me like this, like I don't know, like one of these books that men read to feel more manly.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was a long flight from America to Russia. And then so I was reading this book and I'm like all jazzing up. I'm like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. I'm a tough man. Like, I stand up for myself and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like all amped up on like testosterone, adrenaline, and whatnot. And I land in Russia and then I get there and then I get kind of like boosted a little bit by a cab driver and this like hustle that they were running. And so I proceeded to chase down the cab driver, big nasty confrontation with some very dangerous people.
Oh,
But
okay.
thankfully, I was like brazen enough that like they let me let me out of the situation.
No guns pulled or anything like that?
Uh, there were, uh,
Oh,
but they let me out of the situation. It was all good.
wow. Okay. Okay, so the next question So, okay, wait, you were with your
Oh, I gotta go to,
okay, okay,
I
go
gotta
ahead.
go to, isn't there, we're not at a clip of 1 an hour. This one time I was working,
Wait, start over?
I got another one.
Yeah, I know, but when you started, I couldn't quite understand what you said.
I said we're at a clip of like 1 an hour,
A
1 an hour,
clip. Oh, yeah,
a
yeah,
clip,
okay.
you know, you know,
Yeah, got
so this one time, this is not a near death experience. This is just a delightful experience.
it. Yeah.
As this young leader, I was working, and because like you remember said the Six Sigma thing, hot dog factory, and all that
Yeah,
stuff. All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
so it took me on a journey of a lot of dumb stuff, and that's how I
Mhm.
ended up in Russia. Because I learned these things, and they had to go to Russia because I did some engineering thing, and I did a really good job with it. I had to share it with some people in Russia
Uh-huh.
separately. Another season life post hot dog factory, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was, and I was working in a different factory, and I was making parts that went on to like heavy equipment.
Mhm.
And I wasn't personally, but I was like managing a team of people that were like making these parts.
Yeah.
And so it was getting shipped to a company that made these like big skid steers, and the big company, and like there was something wrong with like the paint
Right.
in a particular batch, and our customer was like really upset about it.
Uh-huh.
And I was a young kid, and this was like it's probably like 2004, 5, 6. I can't remember. I have to don't fact check me on the exact date, but it was a long time ago.
Okay.
And anyway, they're like, "Hey, you gotta get here and like look at this stuff." They're
Yeah.
telling the company that I work for, like, you gotta send people out here to come look at this stuff and see what's going on. And I was like a young, dumb, stupid kid, and I hadn't been in the job that terribly long,
Uh-huh.
but it was my responsibility because my people had made, or maybe my people, my equipment, my process, something I was associated with had made a mistake or a problem, so I needed to go figure it out.
Mm.
So I do what any natural, and I didn't have I was broke, so I didn't have like a credit card. I couldn't like go rent a car.
Right.
So they send me in the company car, which it doesn't exist in very many places. So they send me in the company car. It's a large company, by the way. It's very few company cars I know. But anyway, they send me in the company car and they're like, hey, we need you to go to Sanford, North Carolina. I've said too much already. They said you need you to go to Sanford, North Carolina. You go look at this paint situation, see what's up. I've never been to
Uh-huh.
Sanford, North Carolina. I don't think I'd ever been to North Carolina before at that point in time. So get on MapQuest, I think it was. You
Yeah.
print out the map. You get on like your dial-up internet. You print out the map and like you put it on paper and you go with you and you just hope that you don't make a wrong turn.
Yeah.
And that's where I went wrong. Is like as myself, and I got Ray Polly who was on my team, and we so like I got lost bigger than snot. Totally lost. I get totally turned around. I ended up on some like dirty old back road, and that was fine in and of itself. But I ended up in some big logging operation, and my company car
Oh,
somehow got speared by a log truck.
no way.
Yes, just like it would have like wrecked it. Um,
Wow.
and my yeah, so that was a really that was not a near death experience, but that was like a
Yeah.
that was an icky one. But yeah, speared by a log truck on a dirt road.
Yeah. Wow. That's
That was a fun incident report to turn back in when I got back to
uh,
work.
yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
Like
So wait, was it their fault or was it your
it
fault?
was totally their fault. But
Okay.
well, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have been there.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
Rightfully, but like I didn't say, "Hey, come stab my car with
Yeah.
these forks and like try to dig a hole, lift the trunk out."
Right. Yeah.
But like it was like so important though that I get to the customers because we were like driving pretty fast, and it's like no stops, get there as quick as we can,
Yeah.
and like there's no time to deal with the company car getting speared by a log truck in this situation because we have an important situation we need to deal with our
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah.
So like I just like we left the scene. Don't even know where that happened. Ray probably remembers, but
Wow.
yeah.
And you
So
couldn't call an Uber because those weren't around.
that didn't exist. So I just drove it around like that and took it back to
Oh, you drove it
yeah,
around like that?
drove it back and had this big old incident report, and they're like the holes in the car.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so um do you w- okay, so let me go this direction. What's next for you?
Good question. So I think I had mentioned that I've done a bit of a so as I gotta explain where I'm. where I have been recently at in
Sure.
order to explain where I'm going to
Please.
set the trajectory.
Please.
So I spent a lot of time in a mentorship and figured out exactly how I wanted to make the kind of music that I wanted to make, and very quickly afterward, kind of decided the type of music that I wanted to make was maybe a little different than
Yeah.
what I thought it really was.
Yeah.
I had been like, making more melodic house kind of stuff, and then I found like, hey, the heavier music is for like really like that's what's filling my cup up right now. It's where my excitement is.
Right.
So that's where I'm at, is making stuff that's more like bass house, trap, EDM, dubstep kind of stuff. And it's like
Uh-huh.
that's what my spirit needs to talk about at this moment.
Right.
So like where I'm at right now is I've got a string of tracks lined up to release over the course of the next few months, and so what the next few months are going to look like is putting that out in front of my fans and
Mm.
getting a chance to connect with different people out in the world
Okay.
that maybe thought of me a little bit differently as a different type of an artist, and put something else in front of them and say, "Hey, this is the direction I'm going, come along with me if you want, and if
Yeah.
not, there's other great house music artists you can go
Right.
check their stuff out."
Yeah.
So a bit of like putting the new material out, the new content, the new Sean out, and putting that in front of the world and giving them a chance to hear it and experience it. And
Mm.
hopefully it's exciting to people, hopefully it's inspiring to them, but
Yeah.
releasing a lot of that stuff over the course of like now through the summer and into the fall. And then I want to give that stuff a chance to like really percolate and give people a react to it
Yeah.
before starting to book a whole lot more of like the bigger shows and events. And I've got
Okay.
a couple things coming up, some that I can talk about, some that I can't. But I don't want people to come book a show, get a ticket to a show and expect one thing and get something entirely different, because that
Right.
sucks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really just giving people a chance to like level set with like with this cool new stuff is that I've got coming out, and then you hit the road.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Are you currently writing any tracks or creating
Oh,
any tracks or
always. Oh my gosh, yeah. Because
okay.
just like Kanye, those practice beats. There's probably um I think I've got like 8 or 10 that are done or
Yeah.
close enough to done to be done,
Okay.
that are ready to go. And
Heck yeah.
I've got gosh, probably 40 or 50 that are at various stages of near completion.
Okay.
A couple lined up. There's always like competing priorities, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Especially when it gets into the world of like collaborations with people. So
Mm,
I've got, friends up in Canada that I work with quite regularly, a lot of folks in Western Europe. And then
yeah.
like we each have our own projects that we're like doing together, that we're doing independently, and trying to
Cool.
balance out timelines, priorities for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, lots of stuff that is like ready and in the same zone. I've got lots more that is in the same zone and in process, and
Yeah.
trying to shape that around like, what the new sound is.
Okay.
The interesting thing is like in the creation of a piece of music that um where I'm at as an artist at the beginning of that track isn't the same as where I'm at when I have finished creating it. Like creating something definitely changes me along the way.
Mm,
So it's almost reflective of where I have been and not necessarily where I'm at now. And maybe that's what the spur is to create the next thing.
right. Yeah. Cool. So I'm gonna put in a little bit of mystery, and maybe you'll fill it in, maybe not. But when we were talking via text, you had mentioned that you were working on a little something something, and I don't know if you wanna talk about that or not.
I don't remember what the little something something was.
Well, you said that
I
maybe
should
you
look.
can talk about it on the podcast, but I wasn't sure if you could or not. So
Oh, the new track that I got coming out with that.
yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
can
yeah.
talk
I
about
was
that.
trying to lead you into that, and you were
The
mentioning
something
it, and
something. Like
yeah,
you
yeah, I was trying to lead you into that. And you were talking about it. I'm like, wait, maybe he doesn't want to talk about this.
Yeah, so thank you for
Yeah,
trying to protect me from myself and my inability to know my own self.
yeah, you're good.
Yes. Okay. So this is a good time as any. I haven't like officially announced this, but I guess today can be the official announcement. Yeah. So I do have a new track coming out here in a few weeks. It'll be out the last Friday of April.
Heck yeah.
Lord willing to know weird things in distribution. This is another independent release because
Wait, you said last Friday of April.
last Friday of May.
I had to
Excuse me.
check. I was like, wait, it's May, right?
I swear I know what my months look like. Yes,
It's
it's
okay. It's okay.
slated for May 30th.
Okay.
Side tracks if you like to go fast.
Okay.
Uh, that's coming out. It's a track that I did as a collaboration with 3L, aka L, aka Element of Surprise. It's
Yeah.
a guy out of Cincinnati, actually, fantastic producer and vocalist. Actually, he's not doing the vocals on this particular track, but he's got some amazing hip hop dude and a great person.
Okay.
So that's coming out not April but May 30th,
Okay.
and really just very excited about it. It's
Cool.
like, you know, bass house, feels like a knock 2 track, but if we talked about some of my inspirations, it's like, if knock 2 and Troy Boy had a love child, it would probably sound a lot like what this track is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm pumped about it. High
Cool.
energy, lots of crazy bleeps and bloops, and
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I had the chance to listen to it as well, so pretty awesome. So thanks for giving me that little sneak peek. So this podcast might come out around that time. I would imagine. I've got a little bit of a backlog that I need to upload. I might jump yours sooner, possibly, if that would help you out as well with the announcement and all that. But what where can people go to find this?
all of the streaming places. All the stream. I'm not pressing vinyl on this one. I love the people who press vinyl, and some people are still doing like cassettes and other weird things just for the novelty of it. But I'm not trying to get into physical media because it's a distraction for me
Yeah.
at this point. So yeah, it's gonna go to all the streaming platforms, like
Okay.
everywhere digital, it'll be there.
Cool.
Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Beatport, Amazon, YouTube. It'll be one of the sounds on like TikTok and Instagram and all the places you can like add it to your thing.
Yeah.
It's all the places. All
Okay.
the places.
Okay. So normally I do this earlier on in the episode, but we got to talking about near death experiences. I don't know why, but somebody decided that we would lead with that story, but it was me, guys. It was me. I thought,
Fix it in post.
yeah, exactly. I'll
Fix
just
it in post.
put that at the end and put this right at the beginning. But let's do a little bit of rapid fire. Then so it's just maybe one word answer, maybe a sentence or two, and then we'll just move on to the next thing. So so corporate life or entrepreneur? I think I already know
Entrepreneur.
that one.
Definitely entrepreneur.
Yeah, and then DJing small parties or big festivals.
Big festivals.
Okay, and then
No, not. You said
go ahead. Go ahead. You can.
I
do
love my small parties. They're also like incredibly challenging, way more than you would think, because you got a lot of fish swimming the same direction. Like they move much easier than a few fish. Believe it or not, smaller events are more challenging than the larger ones.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're sucking bad, like you got to make eye contact with like the 5 people in the room, and they're looking at you, and they're like trying to be like,
they're over there not like barely dancing or like not.
yeah, they're
dancing at
like,
all, and
where
you're
they're
like,
dancing, they're like, man, I'm getting awful tired, but I'm the whole dance floor.
yeah.
And it's like, man, I feel for you, but I'll slow it down. But if you get a drink, we're done.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So then, this is the term that I was saying that I'm not sure. Fade or full transformation. Do you know what that is? It's
I'm
okay
gonna
if you
get
don't.
shamed for probably not knowing what this is.
Uh,
Fade or full?
Fade or full transformation. This is, by the way, these are Chat GPT created. Some of them were this one specifically, and I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So
I don't either, but I'm gonna pretend like I do. You can go full send.
full transformation. Got it.
Full send.
Okay.
Never halfway.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments tell me what a fade and a full transformation is, because I didn't prepare for this question.
Yeah, right.
I make EDM. I don't make fade.
Roast him, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Y'all probably recognize the context after we get done talking. I'll be like,
Yeah.
I had a great answer for this.
We can Google it after, yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait. Is he talking about crossfading?
I it just said fade or full transformation, and I was like, "Ah, Sean might know what that is." I don't know. I have no idea what it is.
Okay, I got nothing.
Okay, okay. Okay, so let's go with the podcast question. What keeps you rolling forward?
Gosh, you know what? It's like for me, it's I feel like it's a race against the clock
Oh. Yeah,
because
right.
yeah, it's a race against the clock because like I just slept on this opportunity a whole lot for a long time.
Yeah,
And then now it's like I'm realizing like there aren't going to be a whole lot more opportunities for me to chase after this dream.
right,
So like it's it's the realization that I've used my mulligans. I've
right.
golf term.
Yeah.
I suck at golf, by the way,
Yeah.
and guns apparently. But I mean, and GPS as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things that
There's a
we've
lot of
discovered
things
that you
that I'm not particularly good at.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm bad at walking, so I think that tops it all.
Oh god, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, it keeps me rolling forward though is like just the realization that I have to set like a I have to set a trajectory and a pace.
Uh-huh.
And like in music, like there's really no stagnancy. You're either gaining or you're fading.
Mm,
So it's like I have to keep moving forward or you can lose it. There's a whole
yeah,
pace of like releasing music. It's like you especially in the modern era, that new artists that are creating in order to maintain momentum
yeah.
and not lose fans, like you got to release something like every 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
So that's a lot of material at a very fast rate. I mean, you can
Yeah,
imagine what it takes to like, create an entire piece of music and to package it up and to put video around it and to promote it and everything involved. Like, repeat. It's a
yeah,
vast cycle.
right,
And if you fall off of that, then I mean, like you disconnect with the people that you're trying to connect with.
right. They stop looking forward to what
Yeah,
you're
you
releasing.
fade into obscurity. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's what keeps me moving forward,
Maybe that's what it's talking
rolling
about,
forward.
the fade or full transformation, they fade into
Mm,
No, I'm just kidding, that's stupid.
that's it.
Sorry,
Full
guys, I make corny jokes, deal
full
with it.
transformation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So, as far as your the business and the music, how do you balance the 2?
It's tough. Sleep or lack thereof
Yeah,
been a big part of it.
yeah, yeah.
Lack of sleep for sure.
So, are you one of those people that can run on low sleep or like very few hours of sleep, or do you need like a full night's
Yeah,
rest?
well, said initially I'm kind of like Benjamin Button, but the truth is,
Yeah,
I do feel like I get a little bit more sleepy now than I did a year
yeah,
ago and a year before that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
But no, honestly, like I'm usually like most musicians, I'm at it until like the wee hours of the morning. And I'm
Yeah,
trying to get better about getting into a sleep cycle, but
yeah,
I was trying to drive at is how often like cut into sleep to in order to balance the two. And that's a tough part. There are concessions. Cut out a lot of hobbies, a lot of other interests.
yeah,
Don't get to spend as much time with friends. I try to protect time with family, but
yeah.
and my dogs.
Right. Yeah,
Uh but um But that's a big part of the balance is like creating space in other parts of my life that I
yeah.
can control.
Right.
Um, Thankfully, on the business side, I've been able to simplify that a bit by creating some sustainable things in our business. And this is not just me; this is my wife as well and our whole team.
Mhm. Yeah.
Creating some things in our business that are sustainable, so that I don't have to invest so much time. Like for
Right.
example, like we've done some big technology changes, so things that used to be really manual, I don't have
Right.
to be as handsy with.
Right.
So that's helped. We got, a layer of leadership. We got some great people that are helping lead the team now, so I don't have to be as hands-on with every single decision in detail.
Right.
So that's a big part of how we do it on the business side. And on the artist side, part of being able to balance that with the business has been, I think, being more purposeful in how I'm spending my time with music.
Mm.
So, like, you can squander away hours, days, and weeks and accomplish very little.
Yeah.
And because being an artist is like being an entrepreneur. It's like I'm creating a thing and I'm putting it in the market.
Right.
I'm delivering it to people, and
Yeah.
then things happen.
Yep.
So, like, what what I've done is to simplify that process for myself. I've seeked out and found ways to, make parts of that like less hands on. So, like for example, um, initially I was doing like all of my own mixing and mastering for every single track, and that is a
Mm.
very specialized skill, and it's difficult to get right. It involves time, a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning, and it's different than actually making the music.
Yeah.
And so, old me was like doing all of my mixing and mastering, doing the car test, taking it out in the Toyota 4Runner,
Right.
and putting it on the iPhone speaker, and then like making a million and one revisions to the master, trying to get it right, and
Right.
doing it with like a cheap set of monitors and headphones. And
Yeah.
so, in order to balance out life and work and business, it's like, well, that's a part of my process now, that where I can, like, I outsource that. Like, I'll
Mhm.
get it to the 99%, and then I take it to the mastering engineer, and
Mm.
like they're checking for like transients and making the last couple final finishing touches just to put the new car smell on it and get it polished up.
Yeah.
So I've got an engineer out of Croatia that I work with. It's a fantastic job. So it's
Okay.
packaging, getting it really radio ready,
Yeah.
and it's subtle differences that most listeners probably would never even notice, but
Mm.
it's an important part of putting this music out to market. And
Right.
by sourcing that out, it cuts time out. It creates space for
Right.
my family and my business, my other priorities.
Right.
Same with like marketing and PR. I was doing all my own PR and all my own marketing initially,
Right.
and now I've sourced that out. I've got partners over in the UK that are working with me to handle all that stuff. So I've got a
Mm.
publicist, and so they're helping get me connected with my with my fans and playlisters and the people that I need to connect with in the right ways.
Right.
So I mean, I can do that on my own, or
Yeah.
I think I can.
Yeah.
But I've got I've got a publicist now, and that's like what they specialize in. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
trying to tr- trying to put the cycles that I have saved for my music into the music, and not so much the things on the fringe.
Yeah. And so with all that, you're a father and a husband.
Yeah, four
So
kids,
well, yeah, 4 kids.
4 kids.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you're doing all of this while managing a family as well, and being obviously a good father and a good husband, and so mix that into all this now. So you've got the EDM and the entrepreneurship, and now your family. How do you manage all that?
It is a balancing act for sure. It is, and so grateful to my wife and my kids because they've been supportive of me on my journey into whatever this artist thing is.
Yeah.
So they've given me space and flexibility to, and support to be able to try and like chase after this.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, I think for balance, like the way that I try and make that happen, I'd mentioned like burning the candle at both ends. Like I try as best I can to save like prime time hours, for family, and that's like when my son's got he's got a baseball tournament over the weekends. It's like, well, that's not music time. Like we save that for
Mm,
later.
right, yeah.
Um, like, I think it's like a matter of like carving out time. Something we've done recently is we've got somebody that's a couple days a week. This is on our marriage side. We've got somebody that's like coming to watch our kids for a couple hours, a couple days a week in the evenings. So my wife and I go out on a date night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's great. And also they, she helps out. The person that comes over, not a babysitter, it's not exactly, but
Mhm.
um, uh, so like she'll help out with like some of the things around the house, so that like, oh gosh, we don't have piles of laundry, and she's helping out the kids a little bit, and so that creates space for my marriage. And
Mm.
then on the side with the kids, it's like trying to find common ground and stuff that I can enjoy with my kids.
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes it's the dumbest things, and sometimes it's the most meaningful of things. Uh, we got a pool, so that's like, who doesn't want to go swim in the pool?
Yeah, right.
Or lately, it's been Marco Polo.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I love
Yeah,
playing that.
that's I don't know, just
I
spending time, I guess.
I grew up with a pool in my backyard too, and we definitely played our fair share of Marco Polos. And is your pool round or oval or anything?
The rectangle.
It's rectangle. So we had like a weird oval shape in ours, and what
Do you have the bean shape?
Yeah, 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 it was the bean shape, thank you.
Pinto bean.
Yes, and
Bean pool.
in the deep end, there was a side where you could stand on, like, just on the very edges, you could stand on, and, so what we would do is we would all go the same direction around the outside of the pool, and we'd essentially create,
A
like,
whirlpool.
a whirlpool, and it was,
Oh,
like, freaking
yeah.
awesome, and then we would, like, either try to walk back the other way, or we would just float in it and just let it take us all the way around, and we do that over and over and over,
I
and
know that game. It's most effective if you got, like, some beach balls in the water so that you can see
yeah,
how
yeah,
fast the
yeah.
water's spinning
Uh-huh.
around. You're like, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
really taking off now. It's gonna float out of the
Yeah,
pool."
yeah, yeah. We had some, those floating noodles and stuff like that, so, but yeah, I'm sure there are balls and stuff like that in there
Dude, don't get
too.
me started on this on those pool noodles. It's like, listen, I know times are hard, and I know there's a lot happening in the world right now, but can
Yeah,
I just say that the
yeah.
pool noodle industry has gotten very stingy with the size
Yeah.
of the pool noodles. Like, I mean, I feel like pool noodles when I was a kid were like a bazooka. They were like 10 inches diameter, and
Yeah,
like you could put a Volkswagen on that pool noodle and it would float.
yeah.
And like pool noodles now are like the tiniest things,
Oh, are they?
and like I realize I'm not in the same physical fitness level that I was when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
But I swear the pool noodles are so small. Like what happened?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Give me more noodle.
Yeah, the ones that I had always, like, kinda deteriorated over time
Oh,
and
that's
stuff
gross
like
too
that,
when they get
so
that flaky, like
yeah.
fluorescent yellow stuff in
Y
the pool.
yeah, 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 exactly. Interesting, so you mentioned that you are pretty involved with your wife's business and stuff like that, and then, so I'm curious about your wife and your kids and them venturing into any sort of EDM.
Oh gosh. I've got, my youngest son, he does like he takes more of an interest in it than anybody.
Okay.
So like he and I have like made, a couple like little beats together on stuff and we haven't like released any of it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's 11 and he's probably the one that's like taken the most like care and interest around it. Also, my kid's too young to go check me out at a show. In most
Right.
cases, most
That's
shows are
fair.
21 and up, but I
Mhm.
have, I've had some all ages shows that they've gotten a chance to come out to and check it out and be supportive. And that's like a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it is. I think it's a cool experience, or at least they tell me it is. I don't know though, because I think they're at the age where like dad's not cool anymore.
Yeah. Oh, dang.
Like
That phase is, it's
it
pretty quick,
hurts.
I feel like, but yeah.
It hurts a
Yeah.
little bit, but not too bad. But my second youngest, he's in the sixth grade. And he's like had his first sixth grade dance a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I'm like asking him about it. He's like, "Oh, there's a DJ," and I'm like, "Hey, would that be cool if your dad came?" And I'm not trying to, but I'm just curious. Like,
Yeah.
what if I was the DJ? Would that be cool or would that be not cool? He's like, "That'd be totally not cool." And I'm like, "You mean if your
Oh.
dad is like a recording artist, do people like know of me and I'm performing at their school? It's not cool." Like, no, it's not cool at all. You're my dad.
Oh, no.
Like, we're
That's
there. We are there.
yeah, and wait, so does your wife do any EDM or anything like
No,
that?
she did.
No.
She appreciates it and like she consumes it. She's more of a house music girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Is she play an instrument or sing or anything like that, or
a little bit
okay.
casually, but that's just not her thing.
Yeah.
She's been more of like a painter and she did like a lot of mixed media
Oh,
stuff like in
cool.
her teen years,
Yeah.
in her 20s, and like right now she's like all business all the time.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
Um,
Okay.
So, like, no, she doesn't get too much. Like, she's there to the extent of like being there to support me and being a
Yeah.
fantastic wife and partner.
Yeah.
And she picks up slack as much as she can. But as far as like getting out there and like messing with it and trying to make something and play something, it's like she just lets me run with it.
Yeah, 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 that's fair. Okay.
She'll come to a show when she can, but she can't make it all
Nice.
because like somebody's got to be a parent.
Right, yeah, somebody has to watch the kids.
Somebody's got to
Yeah.
be a parent. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's her contribution to EDM is
Uh-huh.
like giving me my wing. She's my Red Bull.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, so this is a little bit more of a fun question. So, if you could instantly master one random instrument, what would it be?
I think it would be the theremin.
Okay. Google that. Somebody please. No,
The theremin.
I have no idea.
I know
Did you
you
just
don't.
pull that out of your bum
Yeah, I
or
did not. I did
okay.
not. No, actually, it's probably not the best instrument to answer, but you know what it is? He's gonna look it up. It's like this old timey instrument that used to be in like old
What the
like
heck?
radio shows, like whenever there's like a ghost in the room.
Yeah. Okay. Chat, I do have the ability to pull this up on stream, but
Oh,
it would
please
take
do.
too long, so
He's not gonna do it.
I'm not doing it. But it just Google a theremin, and the way you spell it is Theremin is theremin. So
There you go.
definitely I've never I would venture to say that most people watching this haven't even seen this instrument. So let alone heard of it. So um
You know why? Because like I was down a rabbit hole because again, clinical ADHD and I hyperfixate on like things.
yeah.
And I knew that I wanted that particular sound for a
Okay.
track recently.
Oh.
It was like because it does well like in a hip hop type of a setting. It was in
Okay.
like a trap beat on a thing, and like I was like I really would love to have like a theremin in this. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that's what it was called. I had to
Uh-huh.
like look it up and figure it out. I was like I knew I had the picture in my mind of like the bald headed guy in the orchestra pit doing the thing.
Oh
I
yeah.
had no idea what it was. Anyway, so I've found out that there's apparently not a lot of thereminists
Okay.
out there, and
Yeah,
so I had to
right.
recreate it synthetically, and it was like a big
Interesting.
it actually wasn't that incredibly difficult to do, but it's like, if only I had my own theremin, I coulda
Right.
just saved some cycles and all
Right.
that.
So much time. What's have you ever looked into buying one?
No, and I never will.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it was a hypothetical, so there you go.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Don't you dare buy me one, or if you do, save the receipt, 'cause I
Yeah.
won't actually learn imagine having this ungodly thing
Yeah.
trying to use it.
Yeah, right. You guys can find Sean's address at the no, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Send it to him, but be sure to include the gift receipt so he can get his money back for it. Okay, so if you received a letter from your future self, what advice would you hope to find?
Mm, gosh. This is thought-provoking,
Mm,
as it's supposed to be.
yeah,
Um, I think it would be nice to know, like, what was actually important.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a good answer. Oh, interesting.
Everything that I do right now seems important, and everything that I was doing a week ago seemed important, and very little of it actually was.
Holy moly, what was actually important? Wow. That's a deep answer. It's a deep question, but
So it could be a
wow.
good time to hear a theremin.
Yeah.
Woo!
If only I was actually doing some like good editing right at this point in my life, at this point in my podcast, I would totally be like putting a theremin in there. Like I'd put a picture up and yeah. Anyway,
T-shirt idea, theremin mafia.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What was truly important? So here's an interesting thing is, I mean, you probably can take some stabs now based on your life lived as to what was truly important. But I guess like what do you think you'll be surprised by the answer?
I mean, some of it's like some of it I feel like I already know. I mean, like
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of the
yeah.
obvious is like having the people that are around me in my life that I love and care about, and that love and care about me. I mean, I think that's going to be the nucleus of it.
Right.
I would say equally would be like what my core beliefs are about just
Yeah.
things in general. We won't necessarily get into what that is, but there are
Right.
things that I feel like really passionate about, and
Yeah.
it's like, gosh, will a wiser me still feel passionately?
Good
Will I still
call.
stand on that hill
Right.
20 years from now? Or,
Yeah.
am I gonna have a completely different perspective on it? I was like, man, I was just so stressed out about what that one person said
Right.
in that comment on Instagram.
Mm.
Sean Matthew vibes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that still gonna be important to me, or is it just like, who cares what other people? Would later me agree with them and be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I got another music question for you.
Didgeridoo,
What's that?
didgeridoo.
Yeah.
The Aborigines love
Bless you.
the big no.
No,
That you're gonna ask the longest instrument that I've ever played.
oh yeah, that was my next you're so good at predicting these things. Um yeah, dang it, I forgot what
We'll
it
fix
was.
it in post.
Yeah, right. um it totally slipped me. I got distracted and oh, so you have a following of fans. Um what kind of following do you hope to develop more and more? Like, and what I mean by that is like, I hope that there's going to be some comments for my podcast that just like someone just telling a corny joke, and I just love
Right.
it. Or like, um, I have a few things that I do that I don't think the camera notices. That I don't unless you're paying a lot of attention, like you haven't noticed, and unless you're paying attention, um, people aren't gonna notice. So like, I hope at some point somebody in the comments is gonna ask me about it. Like, hey, why do you keep doing this? And then then like there's different things like okay so there's a streamer that my buddy introduced me to. He loves watching Mario Kart, or no, just Mario, and he loves watching Twitch streams of Mario. And there's this guy named Carl Sagan 42, and one of the things that he does is he's like this science guy. So like part of his stream he'll just answer science questions for people, and I just I think that's so cool. Like so like eventually I'm gonna develop a brand doing this, and the brand won't necessarily all be me doing it. I think it'll be something that I'll read in the comments, and I'll be like, I'm gonna latch onto that, or like everybody latches onto in the comment section and stuff like that. So like from your fans and your fan base, like what do you hope that culture looks like, and that kind of whole that mentality that I was just talking about.
Ratchet as possible. No, I'm
Ratchet as
I'm kidding.
possible.
No, not at all. Not at all.
People
No,
who don't shoot themselves in the leg.
that'd be nice. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I really don't wanna have any shooters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fair. Let's not even yeah.
No, I mean, like, so I mean, it sounds like lame and cheesy to say, but I would like it to be something that's like like positive and like
Yeah.
positive and energetic and just like having a good time with it. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I don't know, that sounds so dumb to say
No, no,
that.
no, it's okay.
Like, I'm not trying to evoke any kind of like, I'm not trying to change anybody's opinion about the world
Right.
or about like policy or stuff, but like really, I just want to make people. I want to make somebody feel something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And so, like, I hope that that is the culture that I bring about is people that are there to feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully that's there's the fans that I get. I don't necessarily need everybody to be a fan. I want
Yeah.
like people that are like in like at the same wavelength of energy that I am, and that I can like help them express something that maybe they haven't been able to articulate before.
Yeah. So EDM, of course, is probably one of the
Do bass
highest.
music and dubstep.
Yeah. I mean, EDM is probably one of the highest energy genres out there, if not the highest. I don't know enough about music to say that. You probably could, but like,
It's a broad brush. It really is.
okay. Oh, it is?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. There's like, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It's a fair thing to say too, because if you look like across time, there's like a lot of high energy dancing stuff that happens. There's
Yeah.
also like some very chill vibe,
Okay.
like subgenres out there. But yeah, I think it's a fair statement to say it's one of the higher energy genres.
Sure, sure. So my question is, You don't seem like a very high energy guy. Like you're just pretty even keel and like I don't know.
There's a different side of me that comes out on stage.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's do you get okay? So okay, here's two things that I'm thinking about is the stage vibe that you get. You have to almost. I mean, it's obviously a different you, and
It's
one
yeah,
might argue that it's not you.
it's okay. So yeah, it's a matter of like performance and improvisation. And like
Yeah.
right now, I'm like trying to speak intelligently and
Yeah.
carry on
Sure.
a
Sure.
reasonable
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation that's
Uh-huh.
entertaining,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
informative, and accurate.
Yeah. 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 That's fair.
So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
But like on stage, however, though, like I've got I've got my turntables and I got all the outboard gear that I'm
Yeah.
using,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it is like a little bit is like putting a piece of myself out there, and not as much as one might experience in the studio when I'm creating something from scratch.
Really? No, I'm
Really,
kidding.
but there's like definitely this huge live element, and like
Yeah.
I cannot expect that. Well, let me say this as well as I can articulate it,
Yeah.
that I should expect that the energy that I want to project to the people that are there experiencing it is also what I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Right.
So if I'm experiencing so if like if I'm trying to manifest like excitement or whatever, then like I've got to project that. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of like what comes out in the process.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, so, I heard something one time somebody said, and I try to adopt this because I'm a pretty high energy person. I get, like, excited and
Yeah.
I don't know, right?
Don't we all know
Yeah, right?
this guy?
Yeah, this guy. But yeah, so like one of the things that I've learned over time is like when you enter a room or when you're in a interaction with somebody, it's good to have like just a little bit more energy than the rest of the crowd, or the rest of the room. So like my friend is an extreme introvert, and he'll sometimes call me or just come to me and I'll be on this wavelength and he'll be on like this wavelength. And
Mm,
so
Debbie Downer.
right, well, it's not really a downer, it's just like his like a very normal way about him, you know? And so it's one of those things where instead of being like, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" You know, it's like I'll just be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And that almost like like it makes him more comfortable, I guess. So like I can totally see like you having to crank your energy down for this and like crank your energy up for an EDM show or something like that.
Sure.
So
And like I am just a human living a very human experience.
sure.
So I feel the full range of emotions,
Yeah.
and like I do like put that out into the world, sometimes
Mhm.
on purpose, sometimes not.
Yeah.
So and also like I do want my people who come to experience my art to like have an idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So like I do try to package up certain things and curate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, I mean sometimes I got the blues and sometimes like I just want to wild out.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I haven't necessarily hung out with you much outside of work or in other atmospheres. So really, the Sean that I know is work Sean, and then like our boss took us out on a boat, and then
You're not telling the full truth.
yeah, what's okay? Go ahead.
I feel like I should tell of like an experience at a certain barbecue.
I'm kind of nervous a little bit.
I
I
can't
mean
believe you
we all came
you
over to
don't
your
remember.
we all came over to your house, and
This is like trauma response. Like you have blocked this from your memory.
dude, I have the memory of a goldfish. It was at a barbecue. Did you come over to my house?
No, you didn't come. I didn't come over to your house. You've never invited me to your house. Thank you.
I,
Never once invited me to your house.
dude,
In fact, you invited me today and you didn't give me the address I asked for. No, so no, okay, would you like me to share your story?
I'm a little uncomfortable, like, as long as it's remember, I coach kids,
It's
so,
nothing weird.
okay, yeah, tell it.
Probably just more a lapse of judgment on my part, and it's a story of overcoming adversity.
Okay,
It's a story of rolling forward.
okay, wow, good plug, good plug.
But yeah, so I has this pig roast thing. I don't know why, but I felt like the necessity to have this big pig roast thing at my house in the country, not the one where I pew pew shot myself in the leg.
Yeah,
But anyway, so I decided to have a pig roast, and so I had somebody like cater the thing. It was like a big party for a lot of friends. I'd never done anything like this before, and you remember this?
yes.
Yes, he's
Wait,
yes.
hold on, so we had a work event
It's
at your
different.
house, and then there was another event that you had me over to, right?
Yes,
There
it wasn't a work event. I mean, hold on. So let me just make sure we're talking the same story.
there
I
there
was
w
DJing at a thing at my house, and there was this big pig roast that I put on, and the big part of it was the fireworks.
Yeah, 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 okay, yeah,
You remember
I
the
do remember the
fireworks?
fireworks now, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so, like, I gotten all these big fancy, like, expensive fireworks. I'd gone to one of those states where you can go buy that stuff, and I was had them all wired up to set off.
Wait, but before you say that, for some reason, I know I remember what you're talking about, and I remember that story now, but for some reason, I thought that was, like, a work like,
No.
a
There were, like,
work
there were
event or
some of the
something.
people from work
There
came
was
out, but it
a
was
quite a few people from
yeah,
work,
well,
right?
what can I
Okay.
say, invited a lot of people from work.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, okay.
Those are my people. No, yeah, but, what I really liked about that story was to tell it for the people that weren't there
Yeah.
at that particular event was I had wired up all these elaborate, like, chains of fireworks with, like, no experience, having never done it before with all this fusing, and I had, like,
Yep.
timed out how long I thought it would take to set them off in succession. Dangerous and hillbilly as could possibly be, and, like,
Yeah.
who better to light those light those racks of fireworks than my like, out in the grassy field with, like, rocks all in it, like, impassable as could be. Who better to light those off than my friend in the wheelchair? And so there you go, you stepped up. I'm sorry you didn't step up.
Ah.
You rolled up, and you faced death and lit the fireworks. You were like, you remember
I
this.
did, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I do
and,
remember.
like, I don't think you had a real near-death experience in the process,
No.
but, like, that was not a work event. Like,
I
you know,
yeah.
Backup Terry moment? Do you know Backup Terry? That was
Yes.
you. It was
Back up, Terry.
Backup that was it.
Did I okay, so did I struggle to get away from the fireworks at all, or
No, but you didn't you
okay.
took your time. It was scary.
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty used to, like, doing stuff with fireworks because like, my brother is just, a firework, like, fiend, because I'll show you some pictures of the firework that he just threw, like, this past 4th of July. He probably had, like, 200, 300 people in his backyard doing this firework show, and it was a board, like, kinda like you had, except it was probably 8 boards,
Of course. And he
and
probably knew what he was doing.
well, yeah, yeah, right. But yeah, why was I picked to do that? Because I was just
Dude, we picked the 2 most qualified people that we had.
oh, yeah.
One was a firefighter,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the other was you.
Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a little, it was a while ago in goldfish memory, nothing else there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a good story. Huh, okay. Well, so speaking of, like, good stories, we met at work, of course, and I wanna get into a little bit of, disabled talk and all that, so, um, when you first met me, when we were interacting with each other, do you remember, like, your thoughts of meeting somebody that you're working with in a wheelchair or anything like that, or
I like, thoughts? I mean, it just a care I mean, I thought no differently about it than, like, what would it be like if you had long hair?
yeah.
Or just a characteristic of a person.
Right, right, right. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I figured you'd say something like that, so, um
I mean, like, I will say, like, with that's, like, initial reaction, like, this is okay, this is a guy at work. Cool.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, like I was like, because you were pretty outgoing when we first met. I felt
Yes.
like you had a very bright personality,
Mm,
and you just happened to be the guy with the bright personality in the wheelchair,
right, right, right.
and that was about the extent of it.
Yeah, one thing I've been talking to I want to bring up with like my disabled friends that I have on the show is like one of the I suppose almost obligations that I have is I feel like there's an elephant in the room with most able-bodied people that I first interact with,
Yeah,
and the elephant being like curiosity of why using a wheelchair, or curiosity of like I don't know what this person's capable of. How much should I help him? Blah 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 blah. Like,
sure.
is he gonna run over my feet? Like,
Oh yeah, I'm sure that.
that's definitely happened once or twice
Yeah,
before. But yeah, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
like I probably am not like a fair barometer
No, that's fair.
for that. Like to qualify that, like there was a season of life where I worked in a group home setting.
Mm,
So I was with people that are like had very different challenges than you do, but I
yeah,
was in an MRDD facility,
yeah,
and so there were a lot of folks that were in wheelchairs, and um, like it was just very normal to just be around people that used a ramp and
right,
people that like had different aids to get through life, and so I just,
right. Yeah, so you've had
you have a lot of
experience
reps.
with
Yeah, like
people with disabilities.
well, yeah, exactly, and I mean it wasn't like my first time experiencing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. What advice would you give somebody to just broach that? Like, again, I feel like some people, especially people that aren't used to people in wheelchairs, they just don't know how to act. Like, they might say stupid things, which is okay, fine, or like, I've heard like I can't. I'd be a billionaire if if I got $1 for every time I heard somebody say there's a speed limit or you should put a motor on that thing and all that. So like, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or advice that you'd give somebody that like is interacting with a disabled person?
Gosh, that's a really good question.
And I
Um,
know you might not be the best person to ask
well,
necessarily,
I mean,
but
I could,
like you were in that MRDD home and all that. So
yeah, and it's a fair point. Gosh, I mean, like, I would say, thank you. I'm like
yeah,
not eating my mic like I was. Um, and like maybe you can help me out with this a little bit.
sure.
But like, there's an element of like the elephant in the room. It's like, hey, don't be afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Also, like, is it is it appropriate and okay to talk about it with anybody and everybody in every situation?
Yeah.
Like you and I, we worked together. We had rapport. We were gonna have regular interactions. Like we'd
Mhm.
established, like, hey, friendly. Like we can, like we're gonna work together. We're gonna enjoy each other's company. And I think like that is a setting like where I like can ask permission to ask about something that's very personal to you that
Yeah.
you've probably had a journey of ups and downs with.
Mhm.
Um, and, like I feel like that framework
Mhm.
it would be okay for me to like ask and explore and like maybe have some fun and talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're the person that's in front of me in line at Target,
Mhm.
like I don't know if that's the right time and person to like get into somebody's chili. I mean,
Yeah.
like they may be like dealing with like some struggles around it. I
Mhm.
mean, like what the implications are in their life. Like, gosh, it's not necessarily everybody that's in a wheelchair is permanently disabled. Some people like they had hip surgery and they just lost their job because they took too much time off work and their
Mhm.
FMLA ran out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like it could be a very sensitive topic. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Is that does that directly answer your question? No, I don't think so. But I would say like my perspective on it is I think like I feel like it's probably important for me to like understand the dynamic of the entire person
Mhm.
to ask permission to become a part of or to understand more about something that's intimate for them.
Yeah. Yeah, so okay, so
But coach me up on it because I don't have all the answers. I'm just a normal. I'm saying
yeah,
I'm just like another human, just like trying to
sure, sure.
roll through this life.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's that's a great answer. So I am, from what I'm slowly learning, like talking to people about disability and stuff like that. I'm a little bit of an anomaly. So like, um, I had somebody at a retail store that I used to work at. I was towards the front and just waiting for the next customer,
Mm.
and I had a customer walk by me and just go, "You lazy ass, why don't you get off your butt and do something?" And I died laughing so hard, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that took some guts to say, I need to come shake your hand,' because that was hysterical, and I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna tell this story, and it's, but, like, obviously, like, I think the majority of disabled people would have not reacted very positively to that, but I just thought it was hysterical, and, like, if somebody, just a complete stranger, came up to me and was like, "Hey, what happened to you?" There's very few questions that I'd be like, Nope, you've crossed the line, I'm out." Like, you could I'm an open book, and the other thing that I try to do whenever I meet, like, an able-bodied person is I'll throw out a wheelchair joke, or I'll throw out various things like that, like, pointing out that, like, "Hey, like, it's just a disability,
Fair
it's
point.
not that big of a deal." So, I really have, like, crafted that, if you will, to work in my disability and, like, kinda, like, just get rid of that awkward, the elephant in the room, so that people would feel more comfortable with me and be able to talk to me about things. So,
Yeah,
um
it's fair. What do you think it would be like if, and so like this is the condition that your body has been in the entirety of your life,
since
right?
birth, yeah.
Since birth.
Yeah.
Do you think there may be someone out there who was, I think your term was able-bodied. There may be
Mhm.
someone out there who was able-bodied and
Yeah.
through some type of a tragic incident, they lost that and they ended up in a wheelchair. Do you,
Mhm.
I mean, I can imagine a car accident.
Yes.
And do you feel like they may have different sensitivity around that topic and being approached like, oh, that spawns the memory. It's like that trauma incident. I mean, do you think they may have a different feeling as opposed to you if that's all you've ever known?
Yeah, so like I like I started, I think I
You're
am a
an
little bit an
anomaly. You
anomaly
are.
with this, because yeah, I think a lot of people are not necessarily as open to talking about it. Uh, uh, I just had somebody on my podcast who I actually we had some really cool disagreements on the show just about this in general, and so he got run over by a train, when he was younger,
Jeez. It's
and
lucky to be alive.
well, yeah, but you can imagine as well, like, oh my gosh, like, I have 17,000 questions now. So let me just ask you all my questions. And so, obviously, if you have to do that, like, day after day after day, like, just answering the same question over and over and
Yeah.
over can get pretty exhausting for somebody. So, like, and I called him out. I was like, "You have no problem talking to people about your disability." He goes, "Yeah, you're right. I absolutely don't have any problem talking to people about it, but sometimes I just don't want to." And I thought that was interesting, and so my point of view on that, and I've got another, like, side tangent in a second, but, like, my point of view on that is, like, I think it's on us as the disabled community to get word out there and to spread the awareness about our disabilities and about our uniquenesses and stuff like that. And if I don't share my story, um, someone's not going to learn about the disabled community in that moment. And yes,
That's a good point.
they could go on and do their own research or whatever else, but, like, I don't know. I feel like I have a pretty good perspective on life in general, and I want to spread that awareness. I want to be that advocate for disabled people to and put my voice out there as much as humanly possible, So that way people can live and learn, and we can live in a better harmony together, if you will. Like, I don't know. Like, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, like, it's gosh, that's a really valid point. I don't know that it's up to the disabled community to like own all of that. I mean, I think it takes all of us to like for one, yes, disabled community to be comfortable sharing and as
Yeah,
much as possible, enrich those that don't understand.
yeah.
Also, for everybody else to be able to ask, to position in a posture to ask questions to better understand people around them.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's hard to
Yes.
empathize for people that you don't understand.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is so early on, and again, I think I'm an anomaly in this is like I'll be in public and a kid will be with his mom, like a 5-year-old, and the kid will just be like, "Mommy, look at that!" Or "Mommy, why is he sitting down?" Or something along
What do you
those
do with
lines.
that?
I love those interactions because I like. Well, so first of all, what's the parent do? The parent's like, "No, no, no, shh," and, like, just shushes their kid and, like, I'll get into what I do about that, but, like, part of me part of that is curiosity, and in that moment, you're killing the kid's curiosity,
Hmm.
and so
That's deep.
yeah. And so like you're training that kid to not be curious and not wonder what it's like or whatever else, right? It's not an offensive thing. You can think of it as an offensive thing, but like you're different if you're in a wheelchair, and different is something that the human eye catches, and so it's like it's just again it's just a curiosity thing, and so imagine, okay, you're raised in life and you're not supposed to be curious about somebody else in a wheelchair. What's the answer to that? The answer is I'm not even going to talk to that person. Potentially, right? I mean,
Right.
like, and so it's like I don't know how to interact with that person. I was taught from an early age I shouldn't be curious. I shouldn't wonder. So now I, I don't know how to interact with this person, so I just won't. Right. So
That's deep.
I've never heard any able-bodied person, by the way, say that that's been their intention, but I don't know. I can't help but wonder if that's part of it, right? And for me, I'm a pretty, like, outgoing person, right? So it's not hard for me to interact with anybody. But somebody that's more reserved and, maybe they don't want that human interaction, but someone that's more observed, more, more, like, reserved, maybe they're not getting those opportunities like I do because I'm more outgoing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I could see that.
So anyway, you asked what do I do in those situations where the kid's like, "Mommy, look at that." I instantly turn around and I go up to the kid. I'm like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool, huh?" And I'll actually just tell you like a little bit more detail than I normally would, but like I'll go up to the kid. I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? You want to race?" And I'll crack a joke like that, and I'll like they'll be like, "Why are you in a wheelchair? Why are you sitting down?" Or whatever the age group is, or whatever. And I'll tell them, I'll said, I was born like this, and have you ever had your hand fall asleep when you're laying down, or your foot fall asleep or something like that? They're like, "Yeah." It's like, and you can't feel it at all, and they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "That's how my feet are, except I also can't move them at all either." And they're like, "Whoa, okay." And then I'll make a joke. I'm like, "But I can still walk a little bit. I kind of walk like a penguin." And they're like, "Oh, can I see?" It's yeah, right. And
The way you
so
describe it.
Yeah, and so sometimes I might get up and walk. These days it's a little bit harder for me to walk, so I probably wouldn't. But you know, I would I would just try to make it as fun as possible, and like, you know, I'd see him looking down at my wheel. It's like you wanna touch it, you wanna see what it's about. So I try to unleash that curiosity in that kid, um, because again, the parents are just so embarrassed, like almost without fail. Um, I have had other parents that are like, oh, you know, he just needs to get around differently, and that's a great answer as well for like a parent to say that, especially with when I'm in earshot, right? Like, who knows what a parent would say? Like,
Right. So, like, I'm curious, like, as an able-bodied person, I don't really know, like, how often, and your experience will be different than anybody else's, but
yeah,
how often do you, like, feel some type of, like, emotion around your disability? Like,
mm,
anger, resentment, whatever the myriad of emotions, like, how often are you feeling something? Is it something that's like like, oh, it's in the back of your mind occasionally, or is it a
yeah,
looming thought?
yeah.
Or, like, how often does, like
That's a great question. For me, hardly ever. Um, I I was raised very, very well by my parents. They kind of taught me early on that, like, hey, I'm different, but like that's fine. And so that's been pretty cool. So like, yeah, there's some things that are different, but like, okay, so let's say I have to go down 4 or 5 flights of stairs. No, 4 or 5 stairs. It's like, instead of saying something like, "Oh man, I can't get down those," I think, okay, I'm looking around like, okay, what are my options here? And like, should I go through another door? I can go downstairs as well. Kids, I'm not saying you should do that. But I can go downstairs. I've gone down flights of steps before. And I can ride escalators up and down and do things like that. So like I'm also contemplating, like, are the steps, like, 2 feet apart? Because I probably can't go down those
Sure.
steps,
Yeah,
right?
that's very
Are
pragmatic,
the steps
though.
wider? Yeah, I know.
That's not like invoking an emotion around
No,
it,
no,
unless that's the next part is like, is
it
it, "Gosh, I wish I wasn't in this situation."
it's not. I think, that was just an example of where I could go that route, and I could
Oh.
be like, "Ah, steps again. My life sucks right now. I can't even get down these stupid steps or whatever, right?" And it's a mindset thing, right? Like it's like I'm more problem solving. And like, I at an early age, this is probably genetic as well, but like my dad's an engineer, and I I used to love playing chess, and I love those little, like, puzzles that you have to, like, try to get apart, or, like, you have to get the
Yeah,
ring out or whatever else, and, I think part of that is the funness of navigating an able-bodied world in a wheelchair.
expert mode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, but and now I will also throw out another caveat is I can walk a little bit. I need support to walk. I might be able to walk a little bit without support, but I'm very grateful based on me having spina bifida and the different levels of spina bifida that I am able to walk. So there's a lot of people that are in wheelchairs that can't walk. So it's definitely a different ball game for them on doing things.
Yeah, it's is that kinda like a lifeline? Like, if things are like, really challenging, like, I can just, like, get up and take a couple steps and get over this
Yes,
obstacle?
exactly. So if there's 4 steps and there's a handrail, like, I'm jumping out of and I don't wanna go down the steps in the wheelchair, I'll just grab onto the handrail and just carry it down. So, or, like, walk it down behind me. Like, if I'm going up, I can't go up like, multiple steps. I can go up a curb, but, like, if I'm going up, that's a different situation where if there's no ramp or anything else, then I'd grab onto the handrail and I just swing my wheelchair up and throw it up on the top step. So yeah. Um, So you had asked what, like, if I so as far as, like, feeling bad about it and stuff like that, like.
Or yeah, and maybe I should like qualify why I would even ask that. And I'm taking a bit of an assumption around like what other able-bodied people might feel is like I believe that when people are afraid to talk about it,
Mhm,
it's because that there's a fear that it's a sensitive subject,
mhm.
and we don't want to like make somebody feel like crap because
Yeah,
we're picking a wound that's been picked before
yeah,
that they're still dealing with,
yeah.
and
Well,
we don't know the situation is.
that's great. I actually do wanna touch on that, but I wanna say real quick, whether you've just had an accident or whether you're my age and was born like this, you have 2 options. You can wallow in self-pity and think life sucks, or you can get on with life. And I'm such a, like, I'm so blunt when it comes to this, and you'll see this with my next response, but, like, you have to move on. Like, you gotta deal with it. You gotta take life by the horns and go, you know? Like, and the other really cool thing to think about is, like, you know, if I was able-bodied, I wouldn't be coaching wheelchair tennis. I wouldn't be
You're
coaching
right.
adaptive
You you
tennis.
you would never even have had the
I
opportunity.
would have never had the opportunity. And so now I'm helping kids be more independent. I'm helping them get an exercise. I'm helping them I'm holding them accountable with their parents even when their parents are maybe too coddling. Like, I'm trying to instill that independence in those kids so that they can live a good life, so that they don't have to live in I with their parents their entire life and stuff like that. So, now some people obviously they have to. They have certain needs, but I'm talking about the kids that have that potential to to live an independent life. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but so your question about the disability and talking about the disability and stuff like that. So one thing that's really again, I think I'm an anomaly here, but um, I look at you asking about my disability as as like you getting to know a piece of who I am, and I I think some people in wheelchairs might take offense if you're a complete stranger and you ask them. Um, and it could be for the reasons of they get asked that all the time and they just don't want to get into the story of how they were run over by a train and all that. And, like, I mean, it's not every day that you hear that.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so it could be that, but it also could be it's personal. I do know people who have had very traumatic things happen to them, and maybe in some situations they're the only ones that lived, and their paralysis is a constant everyday reminder of that situation, right? I mean, I'm sure you can imagine like some military dudes. I haven't heard this story. I haven't heard. I don't talk to many military people that are disabled. But like I'm sure there's a couple stories where like something like that happened,
Yeah,
and
everybody's got a different story, you're right.
yeah. But here's the thing: the the bluntness that I have with this is you need to get over it as fast as humanly possible so that you can move on with your life. And the bluntness of that is I I don't want to make this decision for everybody necessarily because everybody has their own unique things, but like I think the more somebody that is uncomfortable with their talking about their disability, the more times they're able to talk about it and the more times that they're asked about it, the sooner they'll get over it. And I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but like I mean, again, like kinda facing the bull by like, facing the
Yeah.
dragon head on or
Yeah.
whatever the saying is. Like, it's kinda like one of those things. So, like, yeah, someone might be offended early on, but, like, or when you ask that, but, like, I don't know, like, that's part of their growth, and sometimes that's necessary. Um, as far as it being traumatizing, like, yeah, there probably is some trauma that they're working through and stuff like that, and God, like if someone was asked that multiple times in a day and then they're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore in life, like that would be awful. I haven't heard of somebody doing that, but like obviously my motivation for like you got to move on with your life and you got to move forward and face these things, face these demons. I I don't wish any ill will to anybody, or like I don't want these things to have someone do something really bad about it, and yeah, so I mean I think you understand, so
Yeah. This is a deep topic, and I appreciate you bringing
yeah,
me into it and, like, giving
yeah,
me a chance to, like, kinda, like, learn more about, like, what your experience has been with it and, like, kinda share some of my vulnerability is, like, I don't entirely understand
yeah,
how talking about this stuff feels for other people.
yeah, and I think the other thing, and I think I make a point of talking about this most podcasts is, um there is something about doing wheelchair sports with other disabled people. um, there's a level of accountability that you get with other people with disabilities, that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. Like, for example, showing up to practice with like bald wheels that are almost that are about to pop, or like you just don't have I don't know. You don't have the right equipment for to play wheelchair tennis. Like you have your racket, but you don't have all your straps, or stuff like that is like there's a level of accountability there that um people in wheelchairs will call you on your BS a little bit more with.
Sure, yeah.
So, yeah. Um
Wicked.
what?
I said that's wicked.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for asking those questions and getting those out of me. I definitely think those are perspectives that some people have heard part of it, but some people, and there's definitely some other things out there that I think people would disagree with. So the other thing, the other idea is like I want to have like almost like a disabled roundtable of like I have a setup for 4 or 5 people, and so I want to have several, and us kind of talk about like our different perspectives and thoughts there, and stuff like that. So I again I will say with a lot of these things, I'm a bit so far from what I'm finding out, I'm a little bit of an anomaly, but I have been born like this. I've been like this all my life. So, um, definitely people who have injuries later on in life have a different perspective on it. So,
It'd be exciting to kinda, like, just validate the human experience that other people are having.
yeah, and that's kind of one of the goals of this podcast is to, I mean, everybody rolls forward in some way, right? Like, and I want to understand how people roll forward to hopefully the viewer can take some action on it and make their life even better. So yeah.
This
Um
would be a good time to add in some theremin.
yeah. But yeah, I think that was a good disabled talk. Is there anything else that you want to bring up?
Dude, I wanna thank you for giving me a chance to, come on the show and share a little bit about myself and learn more about you along the way too, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate you coming on too. It was cool that we haven't seen each other in years, and we got an opportunity to just sit down and chat and catch up on each other's life. And dude, the things you're doing in life, it's just like, yeah, that
Likewise.
makes sense, and
Likewise.
it's so cool to see. And I can't wait to see where you go with all this. So maybe you won't be in
Appreciate you.
Cincinnati anymore. I don't know, but
Well,
you'll
Cincinnati's
be
still
such
home
a
because we got a school district and, like,
yeah.
family and, like, life is here, but
Oh, okay. That's
there
fair.
may be a carry-on bag from time to time going to, yeah,
Yeah. Um,
enjoy some shows other places.
okay, so I've got a little bit of an outro.
Yeah.
and so I'm gonna read this off real quick. So, okay, guys, thank you for joining us today on the Rolling Forward podcast. If you liked what you heard, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. I want to hear what keeps you rolling forward. If you have my next t-shirt idea or something you heard today that stuck with you, I am for it all. And if you want to see more shirts like the one I'm wearing, you can find my designs over at rollingforward.printful.me. If you have a story that's worth sharing and fits the theme of what we're doing here, I'd love to hear from you. You could be my next guest. Until next time, keep rolling forward. Thanks, everyone.